Chapter 254. Two types of earth fire. The shop was very small and narrow, with a row of broken shelves on all four sides. These shelves had accumulated quite a bit of black dust, and exquisite wooden carvings were neatly arranged on the shelves. As he browsed through the wooden carvings on the shelves, Zhuowen's face revealed a trace of surprise. Even though these wooden carvings were exquisite, they were all half-finished products, and not a single one was complete. No wonder this shop's business was so bleak. It turned out that the wooden carvings on display were all half-finished products. No matter how exquisite the carvings were, no one would be willing to buy half-finished products. In the innermost part of the shop, a middle-aged man in his 40s held a carving knife as he focused on carving the wooden carvings in his hands. He completely ignored Zhuowen's arrival. Even though he was a little surprised by the shop owner's attitude, Zhuowen did not pay too much attention to it. He shrugged his shoulders as he carefully sensed the abnormal movements of the blue metal piece. He could feel that when he entered the shop, the movement of the blue metal piece had also increased. Looks like one of the chapters of the 6 Wings of Wind and Lightning must be in this shop. I wonder where it is placed. Lifting his head and looking at the shelves around him, Zhuowen secretly thought in his heart. Just as Zhuowen passed by an inconspicuous shelf, he noticed a trace of blue light flickering at the corner of the shelf. Moving away the wooden carvings at the corner of the shelf, Zhuowen's eyes flashed. A dark blue metal piece actually appeared in his line of sight. Furthermore, Zhuowen could see that the surface of this blue metal piece actually had a pattern of a flood dragon. Clearly, this recorded the lightning flood dragon wings of the 6 Wings of Wind and Lightning. Picking up the blue metal piece, Zhuowen's face could not help but reveal a trace of joy as he muttered to himself, looks like coming to Broken Rock City this time was the right choice. I actually found the second fragment of the 6 Wings of Wind and Lightning so quickly. Kid! Your luck is really good. Not long after you obtained the lightning snake wings, you found the lightning flood dragon wings. Looks like this wind and lightning sacred symbol is destined to have some fate with you. Xiao Hei's voice involuntarily rang out in his mind at this moment. Zhuowen smiled. His smile was filled with excitement and joy. He carefully held the piece of metal. Feeling the cold touch of the metal, Zhuowen forcibly suppressed the excitement in his body. At this moment, the middle-aged man in the shop had finally finished dealing with the wooden carving in his hands. However, he still did not raise his head. His somewhat aged voice reverberated in the room. Do you want to buy wood carvings? Upon hearing the man's inquiry, Zhuowen smiled. He walked to the front of the counter and handed over the blue metal piece in his hand to the man. He politely asked, "Shopkeeper, do you still have this kind of metal piece here?" Upon hearing Zhuowen's question, the middle-aged man's hand that was holding the carving knife suddenly trembled. He frowned slightly and lifted his head. His gaze swept across the metal piece in Zhuowen's hand as an indescribable expression flashed across his eyes. Gazing at the face that appeared in front of him, Zhuowen could not help but be stunned. The right side of the face was actually filled with scars. It could be said that the face was completely ruined. If someone who did not know about it suddenly saw this face, they would definitely be shocked. The middle-aged man narrowed his eyes and coldly stared at Zhuowen. He indifferently said, "Young friend, why are you asking about this metal piece? Could it be that you have seen a similar metal piece before?" Upon hearing this, Zhuowen's gaze flickered. He smiled and shook his head. "I once saw a similar metal piece in an auction. At that time, I only felt that it was extraordinary. Unfortunately, the price was too high, so I gave up on it. Today, I saw a similar metal piece here, so I asked out of curiosity." The wind thunder sacred symbol was after all a treasure of the world. If others knew that the metal piece contained the secret of the wind thunder sacred symbol, it was likely that Zhuowen would become the enemy of the entire world. In fact, he would not even have a chance to obtain this metal piece. The middle-aged man glanced meaningfully at Zhuowen and coldly said, "No, I obtained this metal piece by accident. Furthermore, I can sense that this metal piece is incomplete." Zhuowen could not help but feel somewhat helpless when he heard the middle-aged man's indifferent reply. He could only continue, "Old sir, Are you willing to sell this metal piece? I am willing to buy it at a high price. I'm not selling it. The middle-aged man ignored Zhuowen and lowered his head to continue carving. His tone was filled with unquestionable authority. Zhuowen did not expect the middle-aged man to reject him so directly. His eyes narrowed. No matter what, he was determined to obtain this metal piece. After cultivating the lightning serpent wings, Zhuowen could sense the extraordinariness and strength of a cultivation method like the 6 wings of wind and lightning. Just the lightning serpent wings alone gave him unrivaled speed under the ultimate emperor stage. If he learned the lightning serpent wings as well, his speed would probably be as fast as lightning, comparable to an ultimate emperor stage cultivator. At that time, even an ultimate emperor stage cultivator might not be able to kill Zhuowen. Just as Zhuowen's mind was filled with a myriad of thoughts, Xiao Hei's voice suddenly rang out in his mind, "Kid. This middle-aged man is not simple. Don't be rash." Zhuowen's heart trembled when he heard this. He asked curiously, could it be that this ordinary-looking man is an expert? Yes. If my investigation is correct, this person's original strength should be at the ultimate emperor stage. However, there is another force within his body that is constantly suppressing his yuan power, causing his strength to remain at the level of a half-step ultimate emperor stage cultivator. Moreover, this person's battle prowess definitely surpasses that of an ordinary half-step ultimate emperor stage cultivator. You won't be able to gain anything from him at all, Xiao Hei secretly said. Oh? He's actually an ultimate emperor stage cultivator. I never thought that such an inconspicuous shop would be hiding such an expert. Zhuowen's eyes flickered. He could not help but feel astonished. The middle-aged man suddenly raised his head and stared at the unwilling youth before him. He sneered, "Kid. Don't even think about my metal plate anymore. I don't care about money, and I'm not afraid of you robbing me. Because as far as I'm concerned, robbing me is the most unwise thing to do." Zhuowen shook his head and smiled faintly. "If I can help you recover your strength in a short amount of time, would you still be unwilling to sell this metal plate to me?" Crack! A crisp sound immediately rang out. The carving knife in the middle-aged man's hand had actually been broken. The middle-aged man's pupils shrank slightly as he stared fixedly at the youth before him. "Who are you? How can you tell that I'm injured?" His injuries were extremely obscure. Even an ultimate emperor stage cultivator might not necessarily be able to tell that he was injured. However, this ordinary-looking youth before him had actually pointed out his injuries in an instant. This caused the middle-aged man to be both surprised and delighted. "Who I am isn't important. What's important is that I can heal your injuries and allow you to regain your peak strength." A faint smile appeared at the corners of Zhuowen's mouth. His face was filled with confidence. Earlier, Xiao Hei had checked the man's injuries and discovered that the energy that had been suppressing his strength was actually a type of earth stage cold qi. This type of cold qi corresponded with the earth fire and was a rather troublesome energy to deal with. This was also why the man before him was suppressed by the cold qi even though he was clearly an ultimate emperor stage cultivator. However, Zhuowen possessed the ice fire sacred rune and 2 types of earth fire. The middle-aged man's cold qi was like a maggot in one's bones. Why should this old man believe you? Although you have some eyesight and can see my injuries, even this old man can't do anything about them. Don't tell me that a little Earth King brat like you can. The middle-aged man quickly regained his senses and looked at Zhuowen with an unfriendly expression as he spoke coldly. The energy that has been suppressing your strength is probably a type of cold qi. The only thing that can get rid of this cold qi is a unique natural flame. And I just happen to possess this unique flame. As he spoke, Zhuowen took a step forward and countless 9 heavens thunder inferno flames immediately surged out from behind him. Finally, they gathered in the palm of his right hand and turned into a ball of blue lightning fire that was composed of lightning and fire. It burned fiercely in the palm of his hand. This is the Earth Stage 9 Heavens Thunder Inferno Flame. The middle-aged man stared at the blue lightning fire in Zhuowen's palm. The expression on his face became extremely interesting and he could not help but exclaim in surprise. It seems that you have also recognized the 9 heavens thunder inferno flame in my palm. With the power of this flame, it should be enough to get rid of the cold qi in your body. Zhuowen could not help but smile when he saw the shock on the man's face. However, the middle-aged man shook his head and said, "You possess an earth fire like the 9 heavens thunder inferno flame at such a young age. It seems that your background is not simple. Unfortunately, the cold qi in my body is extreme frost. It is the most terrifying type of earth stage cold qi. I'm afraid that the 9 heavens thunder inferno flame alone will not be able to get rid of it." Extreme frost? Zhuowen's pupils suddenly shrank when he heard this. He had heard of extreme frost before. It was also a type of earth stage cold qi. However, the extreme frost's power was above all other earth stage cold qi. Its power was almost infinitely close to the heaven stage cold qi. It was the overlord of all earth stage cold qi. The 9 heavens thunder inferno flame was indeed much weaker than it. Therefore, you should give up. Unless it is a heavenly fire or 2 earth fires, the cold qi in my body will not be able to get rid of the extreme frost. The middle-aged man's mouth revealed a bitter smile as he spoke with waning interest. I don't have a heavenly fire on me. However, I do have 2 earth fires. With a faint smile, Zhuowen suddenly waved his left hand, and a green fire lotus immediately appeared in his left palm. Countless green sparks floated around the green fire, refining lotus like snowflakes, looking gorgeous and colorful. Bang! The middle-aged man's left hand stiffened. The half-finished wooden carving in his hand immediately fell to the ground. He stared in disbelief at the young man in front of him who was holding the 9 heavens thunder inferno flame in one hand and the 3,000 green lotus flame in the other. His entire body involuntarily trembled. 9 heavens thunder inferno flame and 3,000 green lotus flame. You actually possess 2 earth fires at the same time. You. The middle-aged man felt that he was speaking incoherently. He could only stare blankly at the young man in front of him. Chapter 255. Arcana Master Examination. Bang! The middle-aged man waved his right hand and yuan power poured out, shutting the door of his shop. At this moment, the former's face was full of seriousness as he stared at the youth in front of him and said, I really did not expect that you would possess 2 types of earth fire at such a young age. Looks like the heavens are on my side. So you agree to give this piece of metal to me? Zhuowen's eyes flickered as he said indifferently. Since you possess 2 types of earth fire, then you will have a way to deal with the extreme frost in my body. So what if I give you this piece of metal? However, I still need you to help me deal with the extreme frost in my body before I can give you this piece of metal without worry. Furthermore, Cho will owe you a favor. How about it? The middle-aged man nodded and said indifferently. When Zhuowen heard this, he was instantly delighted. He did not expect that after dealing with the extreme frost in the middle-aged man's body, not only would he be able to obtain the piece of metal, he would also be able to obtain a favor from this person. Zhuowen naturally would not reject such a good deal. After all, the middle-aged man in front of him was a genuine Ultimate Emperor stage expert at his peak. Even though he was only at the first Will Ultimate Emperor stage, he was still an existence that could call the wind and summon the rain in Broken Rock City. Of course. However, I still have some matters to attend to. I will come back to your shop tomorrow and help you deal with the extreme frost in your body. Zhuowen said with a grin as he nodded slightly. When Cho heard this, he was slightly disappointed and said, Since you still have matters to attend to, you can go and attend to them first. I have waited for so many years, a mere day is no big deal. My name is Cho. Kid, what's your name? My name is Zhuowen, see you tomorrow. Right now, I have to attend to some matters first. After casually greeting him, Zhuowen waved his hand and left the shop. Cho's eyes narrowed as he watched the figure gradually leave. He muttered to himself, there doesn't seem to be a large family with the surname Zhuo in Broken Rock City. Furthermore, this kid possesses 2 types of earth fire. Clearly, he should be a disciple from another large faction. However, why have I never heard of the name Zhuowen? After leaving the shop, Zhuowen headed towards the Arcane Guild. Although he wasn't familiar with Broken Rock City, the Arcane Guild's building was too iconic. The Arcane Guild's building was like a steeple that protruded out of the city. The tower-like building that was hundreds of feet tall stood out in the city. Even if Zhuowen did not know the way, he would be able to reach the Arcane Guild as long as he followed the direction of the tower-like building. When Zhuowen passed through several long streets and finally arrived at the Arcane Guild, he finally saw the true face of the Arcane Guild up close. Just by standing in front of the door, Zhuowen could feel the majestic and towering building in front of him. There were people dressed in Arcana Master's uniform walking in and out of the entrance. Clearly, these people were all genuine Arcana Masters. Zhuowen even saw a rank 3 Arcana Master among them. As expected of the Arcane Guild. The Arcana Masters that are usually hard to see are everywhere now. Zhuowen praised in a low voice and walked in. There was a rather spacious hall inside. The floor was paved with marble, and the sound of footsteps could be heard constantly. The number of Arcana Masters inside was actually much more than outside. There was a counter facing the door. On the counter, a smiling woman in green was talking to other people dressed as Arcana Masters. Zhuowen knew that this woman was probably in charge of some basic affairs in this hall. Thinking of this, Zhuowen walked towards the counter. The woman in green also noticed Zhuowen, but when she realized that Zhuowen did not have an Arcana Master's badge on him, the smile on her face faded a little. However, she still asked politely, "This little brother looks unfamiliar. It should be your first time in our Arcane Guild, right?" "Yes." Zhuowen nodded slightly and said, "This time, I'm here to take the Arcana Master's qualification test. My master's name is Tsangmu. He arrived earlier than me, so he should have arranged the test for me." "Oh. You're Zhuowen, Master Tsangmu's disciple." The woman in green focused her gaze and looked at the young man in front of her with some surprise. "Yes." "Is there a problem?" Zhuowen frowned. "No. Master Tsangmu did ask me to arrange for you to take the Arcana Master's qualification test, but I didn't expect you to be so young. I guess you're here to take the Grade 1 Arcana Master's test." The smile on the woman in green's face grew wider and wider as she led Zhuowen into the inner room of the hall. "No. I'm here to take the Grade 2 Arcana Master's qualification test," Zhuowen said casually. Before he came, Master Tsangmu had already said that he should not take the Grade 3 Arcana Master's test. After all, Zhuowen still needed to participate in the Arcana ceremony. If he swaggered and obtained the Grade 3 Arcana Master's badge, he would become the target of everyone in the Arcana ceremony. If that happened, it would be very disadvantageous for Zhuowen to obtain victory in the Arcana ceremony. The woman in green who was leading the way suddenly stopped in her tracks and almost collided with Zhuowen. Fortunately, Zhuowen reacted quickly and stopped in time. "Little brother. You said, you want to take the Grade 2 Arcana Master's qualification test? Has your spiritual power reached the 2nd grade?" The woman in green slightly opened her cherry lips and stared at Zhuowen in front of her as she trembled slightly. The young man in front of her looked to be only 16 or 17 years old, but his spiritual power had already reached the 2nd grade at such a young age. Wasn't this talent a little terrifying? One had to know that in Broken Rock City, if one's spiritual power reached the 1st grade at Zhuowen's age, they would already be considered extremely talented. If one reached the 2nd grade, they would be a monster, and the young man in front of her was probably that monster. Looking at the shocked expression on the woman's face, Zhuowen shrugged indifferently. If the woman in front of him knew that his spiritual power had actually reached the 3rd grade, what kind of expression would she have? "Sir, you are really young and promising. You have the strength of a Grade 2 Arcana Master at such a young age. It seems that you have a bright future ahead of you." The woman in green's expression became even more respectful. She knew very well what such a young Grade 2 Arcana Master represented. However, although you have the strength of a Grade 2 Arcana Master, you do not have the badge of a Grade 1 Arcana Master. Therefore, if you want to receive the badge, you will still have to take the Grade 1 Arcana Master's qualification test. I understand. Lead me to take the Grade 1 Arcana Master's examination first. Zhuowen nodded slightly and said indifferently. The woman in green nodded and led Zhuowen forward. A moment later, they stopped at a large door. Outside the door, there were several burly men who were fully armed and guarding the door. The burly men guarding the door were all in the Human King realm. This made Zhuowen involuntarily click his tongue. It seemed that the Arcana Guild was indeed rich and imposing. Even the guards at the door had such strength. At this moment, a fragrant wind assaulted his nostrils. Immediately, a petite figure overtook Zhuowen and stopped at the front. Then, she ignored Zhuowen and turned her head around. She said to the person behind her in a lovely voice, "Cousin. You are so slow. Hurry up, the test is about to start." Frowning slightly, Zhuowen did not expect that someone would cut in front of him. Such impolite behavior naturally made Zhuowen unhappy. Anyway, I am not in a hurry. After all, the one preparing for the Grade 1 Arcana Master's examination is you, not me. A lazy voice slowly sounded from behind. Turning his head to take a look, Zhuowen discovered that at the end of the corridor behind him, there was a young man about 20 years old. The young man was yawning as he slowly walked over with a lazy expression. However, Zhuowen's gaze was focused on the badge on the young man's chest. He saw that there were 2 golden stripes carved on the badge. Grade 2 Arcana Master. Muttering in a low voice, Zhuowen was a little surprised by the talent of the young man in front of him. To be able to become a Grade 2 Arcana Master at the age of 20, he was probably one of the top geniuses in the entire Broken Rock City. Turning his head again, Zhuowen's gaze landed on the young girl in front of him. The young girl was wearing a purple Arcana Master's uniform. Her age was about the same as Zhuowen's. Her delicate face was somewhat charming and her body was slightly petite. However, her development was quite curvaceous. Even the loose uniform could not hide her graceful figure. As if sensing Zhuowen's gaze, the young girl tilted her head slightly and looked at the ordinary clothes on Zhuowen. Her delicate nose could not help but wrinkle as a trace of contempt flashed in her eyes. In her opinion, the young man in front of her did not even have an Arcana Master's uniform, yet he dared to participate in the Arcana Master's test. He simply did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. What are you looking at? Take care of your eyeballs. Otherwise, this lady will gouge out your dog eyes. The young girl rolled her eyes at Zhuowen and snappily said. Hearing the young girl's somewhat unruly words, Zhuowen coldly laughed in his heart and indifferently said, "Don't you know the principle of a good dog in not blocking the way? Moreover, your figure doesn't seem to be worthy of my attention. You're courting death." The young girl gritted her teeth as her cheeks flushed red with anger. What she was most proud of was her curvaceous figure. Now, it was being degraded by the young man in front of her. Moreover, Zhuowen's words were so unscrupulous that the young girl was naturally enraged. Whoosh! As she spoke, the young girl actually took out a slender whip from her chinquan bag. With a flick of her jade-like hand, she actually directly lashed it towards Zhuowen. Looking at the whip that shot towards him like a flame, Zhuowen's expression darkened. He did not expect the young girl in front of him to be so unruly. She was so angry that she directly attacked him. Moreover, the power of the young girl's whip was very powerful. It was actually a high-grade spiritual treasure. She had used a high-grade spiritual treasure right off the bat. Obviously, the young girl intended to kill him. What a big-breasted but brainless woman. With a cold snort, lightning flashed under Zhuowen's feet and he instantly dodged the young girl's whip attack. Following which, his right hand turned into a claw. His claw was filled with lightning as it grabbed towards the young girl's neck. The young girl's strength was not strong. At most, she was around the half-step Human King realm. However, with the high-grade spiritual treasure in her hand, she was comparable to an initial Human King realm expert. However, this did not pose any threat to Zhuowen at all. Chapter 256. The test begins. No one expected Zhuowen and the girl to attack in an instant. Moreover, Zhuowen's speed shocked the surrounding people. Before they could react, Zhuowen's claw was already about to grab the girl's neck. Stop! Just as Zhuowen's claw was about to grab the girl's neck, a loud shout rang out from behind. Then, Zhuowen felt a gust of wind sweeping over from behind. Zhuowen's eyes narrowed slightly as he turned around and threw out a punch. It fiercely collided with the gust of wind. Then, the powerful force caused the two of them to involuntarily retreat. Zhuowen took 5 steps back, while the attacker behind him took 10 steps back. The attacker was the young man that the girl had just called out to. At this moment, the lazy expression on the young man's face had already disappeared and was replaced by a solemn expression. He had the strength of a perfect human king, but he had suffered a great loss at the hands of the young man in front of him. Could it be that this young man, who was younger than him, had the strength of an earth king? The girl in green who led Zhuowen here was already stunned on the spot. She also did not expect the people in front of her to attack just like that. Moreover, she also recognized the young man and the girl in front of her. Both of them were direct descendants of the city lord mansion. The young man was called Ouyang Yateo. Although his martial cultivation was not high, he had the strength of a perfect human king. However, this person's talent lay in his mental energy. He was only 20 years old this year, but his mental energy had already reached the perfect 2nd grade. He was only 1 step away from becoming a 3rd-grade arcanist. He was considered a rather dazzling genius in the arcane guild. The girl was called Ouyang Shishue. She was Ouyang Yateo's cousin. Although her mental energy talent was not as good as Ouyang Yateo's, she had also reached the 1st-grade arcanist level. Today, she had come to take the 1st-grade arcanist assessment. She did not expect to have a conflict with Zhuowen. At this moment, Ouyang Shishue's beautiful eyes were filled with fear. She looked at Ouyang Yateo, who was not far away, and a trace of disbelief appeared on her pretty face. She did not expect Ouyang Yateo, who was at the perfect human king realm, to be at a disadvantage in a confrontation with Zhuowen. My friend, I am Ouyang Yateo, a direct descendant of the city lord's mansion. Just now, my sister was too impulsive. I hope you don't take it to heart. Ouyang Yateo looked at the young man in front of him with fear. In his opinion, the young man before him had the strength of an earth king at such a young age. He probably had a powerful background, so Ouyang Yateo did not want to make an enemy of him. I am Zhuowen. Since brother Zhuowen has said so, I will naturally not take it to heart. Zhuowen also cupped his hands. He glanced at the young lady behind him and said with a faint smile. Ouyang Shishue shrunk his neck as he fearfully glanced at Zhuowen. A trace of grievance flashed across his eyes. Ouyang Yateo was rather surprised as he looked at the calm Zhuowen in front of him. He had seen how ruthless Zhuowen was earlier. He did not expect that Zhuowen would become incomparably calm in an instant. This caused Ouyang Yateo to be rather curious. Brother Zhuo, I presume that Brother Zhuo is here to take the 1st-rank Arcana Master exam as well. This time, I am accompanying my sister to take the exam. Why don't we go in together? Ouyang Yateo said rather politely. Then we will respectfully accept. Nodding, the 3 of them stepped through the door. Watching the 3 disappear through the door, the green-clothed lady let out a sigh of relief. Then, she returned the way she had come. After entering the door, the bright lights illuminated the interior. There were already quite a few people standing inside. From time to time, whispering laughter could be heard. After briefly scanning the hall, Zhuowen discovered that most of the people here were at least 2nd-rank Arcana Masters. Zhuowen even discovered 2 3rd-rank Arcana Masters. One of these 2 Arcana Masters was actually Grandmaster Karaki. Beside Grandmaster Karaki was an old man wearing a long purple robe. He was about the same age as Grandmaster Karaki, and the 2 of them were currently discussing something. Ouyang Yateo and Ouyang Shishue, who were beside Zhuowen, stared at the old man beside Grandmaster Karaki as soon as they entered. Then, they directly walked towards the old man. Master! Master! When the 2 of them arrived in front of the old man, they respectfully cupped their hands. Ouyang Shishue even hugged the old man's arm in a rather coquettish manner, appearing to be rather intimate. Yateo and Shishue. Come, let me introduce you. This is a good friend of your master. His name is Karaki, and others call him Grandmaster Karaki. His mental energy has reached perfect third rank, and he is highly valued by our president and vice president. The old man hurriedly pulled Grandmaster Karaki to his side and introduced him to the two people in front of him with a smile. Perfect third-rank mental energy. When the two of them heard this, a trace of respect immediately appeared on their faces. Grandmaster Karaki's mental energy cultivation was actually a level higher than their master's. He was probably only a step away from reaching fourth rank. That would truly be reaching the heavens in a single bound. Greetings, Grandmaster Karaki. The two of them immediately cupped their hands respectfully. No need for formalities. Xianling, this is the Ouyang Yateo that you have been talking about. He is only 23 years old this year, and his mental energy has actually reached perfect second rank. His talent is truly frightening. Grandmaster Karaki slightly smiled, his gaze fixed on Ouyang Yateo as he praised. When Grandmaster Xianling beside him heard Grandmaster Karaki's praise, a trace of pride immediately appeared on his face. He was most proud of having a genius disciple like Ouyang Yateo. Ouyang Yateo's talent was one of the best in the entire Broken Rock City. There were extremely few people who could reach second rank at his age, let alone perfect second rank. Karaki, I have heard that you have also accepted a disciple. After so many years, you have finally decided to accept a disciple, right? I wonder how your disciple's talent is. Xianling meaningfully glanced at Grandmaster Karaki as he spoke. Heh. My disciple's talent is not bad, but it should not be comparable to your disciple. Moreover, he has only been cultivating mental energy for a short period of time. Grandmaster Karaki touched his nose and lied against his will. To have mental energy talent, his talent is definitely not bad. Even if it is not comparable to Yateo, it should not be too far off. After hearing Grandmaster Karaki's words, although Xianling's words were comforting, the proud smile on his face had already completely betrayed him. Old man Karaki, has the test begun? A clear voice suddenly rang out, causing Xianling and the rest to involuntarily be startled. They did not expect that someone would actually dare to call Grandmaster Karaki, a grade 3 Arcana Master, Old Man Karaki. Could it be that there was something wrong with this person's brain? The few of them looked over and saw Zhuo Wenjing slowly walking over with a lazy expression. When Ouyang Shishue saw that the person was Zhuowen, a trace of fear surfaced in her beautiful eyes, and her hands involuntarily clasped together. On the other hand, Ouyang Yateo's gaze was sizing up Grandmaster Karaki and Zhuowen as a pondering expression appeared on his face. Zhuowen, you are rather late. However, it is alright, the test has yet to begin. What caused the few of them to be somewhat surprised was that Grandmaster Karaki's face did not have the slightest trace of anger. Instead, he was beaming as he spoke. Xianling. His name is Zhuowen, the disciple I mentioned. He is here to take the test to become a grade 1 Arcana Master. Grandmaster Karaki slightly smiled as he introduced Zhuowen to Xianling beside him. Oh? He is so young, but his mental energy has already reached grade 1. His talent is not inferior to Shishue's. This disciple of yours is not bad. Shishue, Yateo, come and greet Zhuowen. Xianling stroked his long beard as he smiled faintly. I did not expect Brother Zhuo to be Grandmaster Karaki's disciple. Yateo was not able to see that. Ouyang Yateo elegantly smiled. On the other hand, Ouyang Shishue bit her lower lip and rolled her eyes. She had no intention of going forward to greet him. She merely stood beside Xianling and glanced to the side, purposely not looking at Zhuowen as she muttered, so he is also here to take the test to become a grade 1 Arcana Master. Humph. He is even younger than me, so his mental energy is probably not that high either. Let's see how you embarrass yourself later. Zhuowen was indeed younger than Ouyang Shishue. In addition to Grandmaster Karaki's humble words, Ouyang Shishue believed that Zhuowen's mental energy was not that high. She did not believe that Zhuowen's mental energy was that high even though his martial path was already so powerful. Just as everyone was patiently waiting in the hall, a tall and thin old man in white robes appeared at the front of the hall. The moment this old man appeared, the hall immediately fell silent. Everyone's gazes gathered on the old man's body. Even Grandmaster Kuraki and the others stopped talking and turned to look at the white-robed old man. It is actually the vice-chairman. I did not expect that even the vice-chairman would appear for this Grade 1 Arcana Master test. That's right. The vice-chairman rarely takes part in these kinds of tests. Why did he suddenly appear today? Could it be that there is something special about this test? Zhuowen's gaze focused slightly as he stared at the insignia on the old man's chest. There were 4 golden stripes drawn there that were particularly dazzling in the hall. The old man in front of him was actually a Grade 4 Arcana Master. The white-robed old man looked around and finally focused his gaze on Grandmaster Kuraki. A strange expression appeared on his weathered face, but soon after, he calmly said, "I will be in charge of this Arcana Master test. If no one has any objections, then let the test begin." After the white-robed old man finished speaking, he suddenly waved his sleeve. A wave of mental energy spread out like a tide, and the red curtain behind him slowly slid down under the influence of his mental energy, revealing dozens of green stone platforms. Each stone platform had the same materials. Clearly, these were the materials needed to refine the origin crystals. There are a total of 30 testing platforms. The test this time is to completely refine a blood chi crystal and have a mental energy of at least Grade 1. You will pass. 3 sets of materials have already been prepared on the stone platforms, so you only have 3 chances. The time limit is the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, so please make good use of your time. The white-robed old man was swift and decisive. He did not hesitate in the slightest as he continued, "Everyone, please choose your stone platform first. The test will begin soon." Chapter 257. Variant Blood Liger. Main ingredient, Blood Liger Origin Core. Auxiliary ingredients, silver leaf grass, lily flower, nether crow ginseng. As he stared at the materials on the stone table, Zhuowen could not help but mutter to himself. The materials on the stone table were indeed raw materials for making blood chi crystals. Among them, there was only 1 blood lion tiger yuan nucleus, while there were 3 sets of supplementary ingredients. The process of refining a origin crystal was rather complicated. There were 3 main steps: soul refining, soul extraction, and soul condensation. Soul refining involved using mental energy to refine the soul of the origin beast within the origin core. After all, the origin core was the core of the origin beast, and naturally contained the origin beast's soul. Soul extraction involved condensing mental energy and extracting the origin beast's soul from the refined origin core. Then, using a large fire, the auxiliary ingredients were refined into a medicinal liquid that adhered to the origin beast's soul, turning the formless origin core into a tangible liquid state. Soul condensation involved completely fusing the origin beast's soul with the medicinal liquid. The Arcanist needed to use the cold air to condense the liquid origin core into a crystal, forming a true crystal. Of the 3 main steps, soul refining was the most difficult. This was because in order to refine the origin beast's soul within the origin core, one had to use their own mental energy to probe the origin core and use a powerful mental energy to suppress the origin beast's soul. If one did not have a powerful mental energy, they could be injured by the origin beast's soul. This was also why Arcanists had such a strict hierarchy. After all, without a relatively powerful spirit, it was impossible to tame the soul of an origin beast within the origin core. Thus, it was very unlikely that one would be able to create high-grade origin crystals. The Blood Liger was a level 1 origin beast. It was a rather ferocious origin beast. Hence, in order to refine the origin beast's soul, one had to have a mental energy of at least level 1. If one's mental energy did not meet the standard, one would naturally be injured by the Blood Liger's origin core. The first step, soul refining, is actually a test of everyone's mental energy. Only when one's mental energy has reached level 1 can the soul refining process be completed. As for the remaining soul extraction and soul condensation, it depends on the arcanist's ability to control mental energy. Zhuowen muttered to himself as he carefully examined the ingredients on the stone platform. This origin nucleus. Slightly surprised, Zhuowen stared at the blood lion tiger origin nucleus on the stone platform. He discovered that the surface of the origin nucleus was strangely dark red. Generally speaking, a normal blood lion tiger origin nucleus was blood red in color. This was the first time that Zhuowen had seen a dark red origin nucleus. You only have one incense stick's worth of time. Everyone better make good use of the time. The white-robed old man lit an incense stick in front of them and said faintly. With the old man's words, everyone on the stone platform began to move. For a moment, various flames appeared in the hands of everyone on the stone platform. These flames were the origin flames cultivated by the Arcana Masters themselves. Although they were not very powerful, they were enough to refine crystals. Ouyang Shishue stood at the very front of the stone platform. Her pretty eyes rotated, before they locked onto Zhuowen's body in a remote corner at the very back. The corners of her mouth curled as she coldly laughed. To actually choose such a corner, it seems that this fellow does not have much confidence in himself. Let's see how he embarrasses himself when he fails to refine it. After she finished speaking, Ouyang Shishue no longer paid any attention to Zhuowen. Instead, she began to concentrate on refining the materials at hand. She was confident that with her advanced level 1 mental energy, refining a blood chi crystal would not be difficult. The topic is actually refining a blood chi crystal. It seems that Shishue's luck is quite good. A pleased expression surfaced on Xian Ling's face as she chuckled. This topic is indeed very beneficial for Shishue. A few days ago, she refined a blood chi crystal and only used half an incense stick's worth of time. I'm afraid that Shishue will be the first student to succeed this time. Ouyang Yateo nodded in agreement. Tsangmu, how long do you think your disciple Zhuowen will take to refine it? Even if he takes longer than Shishue, it shouldn't take too much time. Xian Ling suddenly looked somewhat provocatively at Tsangmu beside her as she spoke in a rather pleased manner. Even though Grandmaster Tsangmu was a good friend of hers, Grandmaster Tsangmu's talent was greater than hers. Furthermore, Grandmaster Tsangmu's mental energy progress was always ahead of hers. This naturally made Xian Ling feel somewhat unconvinced. Even though she could not compare to Grandmaster Tsangmu, she was more than happy for her disciple to be able to viciously crush the prestige of Tsangmu's disciple. Tsangmu faintly smiled but did not reply. However, his heart was filled with schadenfreude. Zhuowen's mental energy had reached grade 3. Refining a mere grade 1 blood chi crystal was not difficult at all. What was laughable was that Xian Ling wanted to compete with him. Wasn't this just asking for trouble? Once the test began, the 30 students on the stone platform began to pick up the blood lion tiger's yuan cores and began to refine the yuan beast spirit within. They did not dare to waste a single second. Even though he was somewhat puzzled by the abnormality of the blood lion tiger's yuan core on the stone platform, Zhuowen did not think too much about it. With a flick of his mind, the mental energy in his Naiwen palace poured out and poured into the yuan core. The moment his mental energy entered the yuan core, Zhuowen immediately felt an extremely strong resistance. It was as if there was a force within the yuan core that was rejecting his mental energy. What a strong repulsive force! An ordinary blood lion tiger's soul should not be this strong. As he felt the repulsive force from the yuan core, Zhuowen's eyebrows slightly furrowed. However, he still subconsciously continued to increase his mental energy in hopes that he would be able to break through this repulsive force. Bang! 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 As time passed, several muffled sounds rang out on the stone platform. Soon after, a few students spat out mouthfuls of blood. Their faces were ashen and the yuan cores in their hands had shattered. Evidently, they had failed the soul refinement stage. Sigh! How unlucky to actually fail the soul refinement stage. Looks like we will have to wait for another year. The faces of the few students who had failed were filled with dejection. They packed up their stone platforms and dejectedly left the testing grounds. As time passed, the number of students who had failed on the stone platforms also increased. After an incense stick of time had passed, only a small portion of the students were still silently refining on the stone platforms. Chi! A soft sound rang out as Ouyang Shishue, who was at the front of the stone platform, slowly opened her eyes. A trace of joy appeared on her pretty face. She gently waved her jade-like hand and a palm-sized blood lion tiger's soul appeared on her palm. At this moment, the blood lion tiger's soul was obediently lying on her palm. It had an obedient look on its face. Evidently, she had already succeeded in refining it. Shishue has already succeeded in refining her soul. Looks like there shouldn't be any major problems in extracting the soul and refining it. Looking at the blood lion tiger's soul in the hands of the young lady on the stone platform nearby, Xianling's white beard trembled as a rich joy appeared on his face. Of the 3 major steps in refining a yuan crystal, the most difficult is the first step, soul refinement. Since cousin's sister has succeeded in refining it, she has basically succeeded in the majority. As long as she doesn't make any mistakes, she can basically be considered to have successfully passed this test. A trace of a smile appeared on Ouyang Yateo's handsome face. To the side, a trace of doubt appeared on Tsangmu's face. On the remote stone platform, Zhuowen was still seriously refining the yuan nucleus with his eyes closed. Logically speaking, with the strength of Zhuowen's mental energy, he should have already finished refining it. However, the current situation caused Tsangmu to feel rather puzzled. Ouyang Shishue gently sighed. Her beautiful eyes once again looked toward Zhuowen's side. When she discovered that Zhuowen was still refining the yuan nucleus with his eyes closed, her cherry lips curled slightly as she coldly laughed and muttered to herself, "Looks like there's nothing special about him. Even now, he still hasn't succeeded in refining it. This Zhuowen's mental energy talent is only a so-so. When the soul refinement fails, let's see how he will make a fool of himself." Oh! At this moment, a deafening roar suddenly exploded from the ground. Following which, the entire hall began to tremble. Ouyang Shishue's jade-like hands trembled slightly. Due to this tremor, she almost shook off the blood liger soul in her palm. What's going on? Ouyang Shishue's pupils shrank slightly as she involuntarily looked back. This was because she could feel that the tremor just now had come from behind her. Behind her, on the stone platform where Zhuowen was standing, the illusory figure of a blood liger suddenly appeared. This blood liger was at least 10 times the size of an ordinary blood liger. Moreover, the aura within its body was much more terrifying. The strangest thing was that this blood liger soul actually had a blood horn on its forehead, making it appear rather unique. This is the blood liger soul. How is this possible? How can a blood liger soul be so powerful? Ouyang Shishue's beautiful eyes faintly flashed. She could feel that the blood liger soul in front of her was many times more powerful than the one she had refined. Standing in front of this illusory figure, she felt her entire body tremble slightly. Not good, it's actually a mutated blood liger soul. Who placed the mutated blood liger origin core on the stone platform? When the white-robed elder saw the illusory figure of the blood liger soul on the stone platform, his gaze immediately darkened. The mutated blood liger soul was also a type of blood liger. However, due to its mutation, its strength was far greater than that of an ordinary blood liger soul. It was said that the strength of a mutated blood liger soul was at least a second-rank origin beast. The expressions of everyone in the hall changed. Evidently, they had also heard the white-robed elder's words. Their gazes all converged on the mutated blood liger soul on the stone platform in the corner. Tsangmu. Your disciple's luck is really bad. He actually picked the mutated blood liger origin core. Without a second-rank spiritual energy arcana master, it is impossible to refine this mutated blood liger soul. It looks like Zhuowen is destined to fail this time. A trace of astonishment flashed across Xianling's face. Following which, a look of schadenfreude appeared on her face. She glanced at Tsangmu, who was beside her, but found that Tsangmu was completely unperturbed. Why does this old fellow not seem to be worried at all? Could it be that he thinks that Zhuowen can refine this mutated blood liger soul? Xianling was puzzled when she saw the calm expression on Tsangmu's face. On the stone platform, the other students also stopped what they were doing. Their gazes were all fixed on Zhuowen, who was sitting on the stone platform in the corner. They were somewhat curious as to how the youth in front of them would deal with the mutated blood liger soul. Chapter 258. Chapter 258. The white-robed elder's eyes flickered as he stared at the soul of the mutant bloodlion tiger. A trace of hesitation appeared on his face. Originally, he had wanted to step forward and help, but he also knew that Arcana Masters couldn't be disturbed while refining their souls. If they were disturbed, their spiritual energy would be severely damaged. It was because of this concern that the white-robed old man didn't dare to make a move. Shaking his head, the old man smiled bitterly and said, "This little guy is really unlucky. He actually came across the origin nucleus of the mutated blood lion tiger, which is 1 in 10,000. I'm afraid this little guy came here for nothing." Just as everyone revealed expressions of pity and shook their heads, Zhuowen, who originally had his eyes tightly shut, suddenly opened them. A trace of bright light shot out from his eyes. "Humph. Even if you're a little special and have the strength of a level 2 meta beast, you still can't escape from me." With a cold snort, a torrential wave of mental energy gushed out from his Naiwan palace. It turned into a huge mental energy palm and slammed toward the roaring blood lion tiger's soul. This mentality has actually reached level 2. This mental energy was like a tidal wave that filled the entire hall. The white-robed elder, who had been shaking his head helplessly, was the first to react. His old face twitched as he looked at the huge palm formed by mental energy in the air in disbelief. "Whoa!" The soul of the blood liger raised its head to the sky and howled. It seemed to have sensed the strength of Zhuowen's spiritual energy. It stomped its feet in the air, trying to escape. Trying to escape? It's not that easy. Zhuowen's eyes narrowed. He gently pushed off the ground, and lightning flashed. In an instant, he arrived above the blood liger's soul. Then, he suddenly pressed his palm down, and a huge mental energy palm ruthlessly slammed into the blood liger's soul. Rumble. The blood lion tiger's soul, which was hundreds of feet in size, fell to the center of the hall like a meteor under the enormous power of the mental energy palm. It actually smashed a deep hole in the hall, causing the people nearby to cough. Woo-woo. A sorrowful whimper sounded out. The blood lion tiger's soul in the deep pit crawled up again. It crouched on the ground and begged for mercy, as if it was scared of Zhuowen. What a wretch. Why didn't you just give in earlier? Why did you have to suffer so much before giving in? Landing on the ground, Zhuowen waved his right hand. The blood lion tiger's soul in the deep pit obediently shrank to the size of a hand and entered Zhuowen's palm. After collecting the blood liger's soul as if nothing had happened, Zhuowen frowned and looked at the white-robed old man who was standing not far away. He said indifferently, "There is no rule against destroying the test grounds, right?" The white-robed old man looked deeply at Zhuowen, but suddenly smiled and said, "Of course there are no rules. If I'm not wrong, your mental energy should have reached the 2nd grade. Moreover, since you were able to tame the blood lion tiger's soul, your mental energy should at least be at the completion of the 2nd grade. Even an arcanist at the initial level of the 2nd grade would find it difficult to tame this blood lion tiger." The hall became incomparably quiet after the white-robed old man said this. Everyone looked at the youth in the center in disbelief. The youth in front of them was only 16 or 17 years old. Reaching the 1st grade at this age was already considered a genius. However, the youth in front of them had a mental energy at the completion of the 2nd grade. Wasn't this talent a little too monstrous? No one dared to doubt the white-robed old man's judgment. This was because the white-robed old man was the only 4th grade arcanist in the hall. He was also the vice-chairman of the Arcane Guild. He held an important position in both the Arcane Guild and Broken Rock City. Ouyang Shishue was stunned when she heard this. The youth that she had looked down on just now actually had a mental energy at the completion of the 2nd grade. Didn't that mean that his strength was about to catch up to her cousin, Ouyang Yateo? Moreover, Zhuowen was even younger than her, looking at the weak aura of the blood lion tiger's soul in her palm, and then looking at the horned blood lion tiger's soul in Zhuowen's palm. Ouyang Shishue suddenly felt that her previous desire to compete was laughable. Perhaps Zhuowen had never placed her in his eyes from the very beginning. A trace of self-mockery appeared on her pretty face. Ouyang Shishue suddenly felt a little dispirited. Her hands stiffened and she stiffly turned her head to look at the smiling Tsangmu. Her voice was hoarse as she said, "Tsangmu, you're really good at hiding things. Your disciple's mental energy has already reached the initial level of the second grade, but you said it was just a so-so. I can't help it. I always keep a low profile and naturally won't boast about how powerful my disciple is. This old man's face isn't that thick." Tsangmu's face was filled with satisfaction. After all, Zhuowen was his disciple. If Zhuowen was in the limelight, as his master, he would naturally feel proud. Furthermore, what he was most proud of was that Zhuowen's mental energy was not the limit. This was because Zhuowen's true mental energy had already reached the third grade. If Tsangmu were to say this now, who knew how many people in the hall would be so shocked that their jaws would drop? Hearing Tsangmu's meaningful words, Xianling smiled embarrassedly and did not say anything else. At this moment, Ouyang Yateo, who was standing behind Xianling, was also shocked. He did not expect Zhuowen to be so young. His mental energy was only slightly weaker than his own. After all, he was only at the completion of the second grade. In the center of the hall, Zhuowen nodded slightly. After a slight hesitation, he continued, "If there's nothing else, I still want to continue with the assessment. After all, I have yet to complete the refinement of the blood chi crystal." "Huh. There's no need for that. Since you have the mental energy of an initial second grade, the first grade Arcanist assessment will be as easy as pie for you. There's no need for you to continue with the assessment. This old man will directly bestow upon you the badge of a second grade Arcanist. This will save you the time needed to take the second grade Arcanist assessment." The white-robed elder laughed heartily. After he finished speaking, the elder patted his Chinkuan bag. A ray of light immediately shot out from the bag and flew towards Zhuowen. Zhuowen stretched out his right hand and caught the ray of light. Upon closer inspection, he realized that the ray of light was a badge with 2 golden lines engraved on it. It was the badge of an Arcanist. "This is your badge. With this badge, you will be able to receive a special Arcanist uniform from the association." The white-robed elder smiled at Zhuowen. Following which, he straightened his face and shouted at the dazed students in the assessment area, "Everyone, don't be in a daze. Continue with the assessment. The incense sticks time is almost up." After regaining their senses, the students looked enviously at Zhuowen, who had already received his badge. They hurriedly resumed refining the crystals. Ouyang Shishue, on the other hand, looked at Zhuowen's back with a complicated expression before returning to the refinement of the blood chi crystal. "Little brother, how old are you this year? Also, whose disciple are you to be able to produce such a genius like you?" The white-robed elder turned his head again and smiled at Zhuowen. His face was filled with admiration. 17 years old. As for my master, it's that old man over there who looks a little ugly. Zhuowen shrugged and pointed at Master Karaki as he said indifferently. "You've become a second-grade Arcanist at 17 years old." When the white-robed elder heard this, the smile on his face grew even wider. Following Zhuowen's finger, he looked at Karaki. "It really is Karaki. I was wondering why this kid suddenly returned to the Arcanist Association. So he brought his disciple here for the assessment. However, he must be overjoyed to have accepted a disciple like you." The white-robed elder nodded at Karaki and could not help but smile. Zhuowen knew that the white-robed elder was the vice-chairman of the Arcanist Association and had a good relationship with his master, Karaki. Hence, Zhuowen's attitude was rather respectful. After the two of them chatted for a while, Zhuowen returned to Master Karaki's side under the strange gazes of Xianling and Ouyang Yateo. The incense sticks time quickly passed. During this time, there were still quite a few people who failed on the stone platform and left with dejected expressions on their faces. In the end, only 2 people passed the test. One of them was Ouyang Shishue, while the other was a middle-aged man. Both of them had received the rank 1 Arcana Master badge from the white-robed elder. Master! Cousin! Ouyang Shishue returned to Xian Ling's side and glanced at the indifferent Zhuowen. Her face was full of depression. She was slightly older than Zhuowen. It was one thing for her to not be a match for Zhuowen in terms of martial arts, but her mental energy was also inferior to this youth in front of her. This caused Ouyang Shishue's original confidence to show signs of crumbling. Shishue! You don't need to be discouraged. To be able to become a grade 1 arcanist at such a young age, you can be considered one of the top geniuses in Broken Rock City. As for that Zhuowen, that guy is a little monstrous. It's best not to compare yourself to him. Xian Ling paused and said somewhat helplessly. After hearing Xian Ling's comforting words, Ouyang Shishue felt even more depressed. This was especially so after seeing Zhuowen's nonchalant expression. There was always a trace of anger in her heart and she involuntarily snorted, "Humph." Being able to become a grade 2 arcanist is nothing special. There are countless geniuses in Broken Rock City. There will always be someone above you. Right now, your mental energy cannot compare to my cousin's. Oh! Is this what you wanted to say? Are you done? If you are, then I won't keep you company. Yawning lazily, Zhuowen glanced at the flustered and exasperated Ouyang Shishue. After saying this, he minded his own business and walked out of the hall. Zhuowen really did not put Ouyang Shishue and Ouyang Yateo in front of him in his eyes. After all, his mental energy had already reached the peak of the 3rd grade. He really did not put these 2 people in his eyes. Moreover, he had heard from Grandmaster Karaki that there would be a few monstrous geniuses participating in this arcana ceremony. They were all grade 3 arcanists. That was Zhuowen's goal. You! Seeing Zhuowen's attitude, Ouyang Shishue stomped her foot. Her pretty face was incomparably red from anger. However, there was nothing she could do to the youth in front of her. After all, she could not beat him in a fight and her mental energy was a level lower than his. At this moment, in a corridor behind the hall, 2 figures were silently standing. One was a middle-aged man with white hair, while the other was a woman with an icy expression. This little guy's talent is not any worse than yours. I'm afraid that during the arcana ceremony, he will be a rather strong opponent. The middle-aged man chuckled. He's only a peak grade 2 arcanist. I don't even put Ouyang Yateo in my eyes. Why would I care about this nobody? The woman's expression was still cold. After saying this, she turned and left the corridor. Chapter 259. Cho the next day, early in the morning, a gentle breeze blew up the fallen leaves on the ground. Zhuowen woke up early and began to meticulously practice his fist techniques in the spacious courtyard. The pavilion that Zhuowen and Grandmaster Tsangmu lived in was quite large. It was one of Grandmaster Tsangmu's properties in Broken Rock City. After all, Grandmaster Tsangmu was a grade 3 arcana master and was naturally quite wealthy. In a super city like Broken Rock City, it was not a problem for him to buy 10 mansions. The wind from his fists whistled, causing the air to vibrate. After practicing a few sets of fist techniques, the sun slowly rose. Soon, it was noon. Raising his head to look at the scorching sun in the sky, Zhuowen withdrew his fists and stood up. Then, he walked out of the courtyard with a majestic gait and headed towards the center of Broken Rock City. It's time to help Cho get rid of the extreme frost in his body. After all, the Thunder Dragon wings are an important item. I need to get them as soon as possible. As he walked, Zhuowen secretly thought to himself. Following his memory, Zhuowen walked towards the end of the street in Broken Rock City. After a while, he stopped in front of a rather inconspicuous shop. At this moment, the door of the shop was ajar. After looking around and confirming that no one was paying attention, Zhuowen directly pushed the door open and entered. The interior was still the same as before. The surrounding shelves were filled with half-finished wooden carvings. On the counter in the depths of the shop, Cho, with a scar on his face, was focused on carving wood. Perhaps he was too focused and did not notice Zhuowen's arrival at all. In the shop, there were 3 people browsing through the wooden carvings on the shelves. There were 2 men and 1 woman. The 3 of them were dressed extravagantly, and it was obvious that they were either wealthy or respectable people. Behind the 3 of them, there were several fully armed burly men respectfully following behind them. When Zhuowen entered, the 3 of them tilted their heads to take a look. However, when they saw that the one who entered was an ordinary youth, they turned their heads again and lazily continued to browse the wooden carvings on the shelves. After the 3 of them turned around, Zhuowen sized them up a few times. 2 of the men were quite handsome, but their necks were raised high, as if they were the best in the world. This caused Zhuowen's evaluation of them to be greatly reduced. The other woman wasn't very old, around 20 years old. She wore a blue and white tight dress, and her figure appeared exquisite and voluptuous under the outline of the dress. The 2 men beside her occasionally glanced at the woman's alluring figure, and a hint of covetousness flashed past the depths of their eyes. Zhuowen did not pay any attention to the people in the store. Instead, he strode directly towards Cho, who was in the depths of the store. Just as he passed by the 3 people in front of him, a pure white hand suddenly blocked Zhuowen's way. Zhuowen frowned as he looked at the woman who had suddenly stopped him. He was confused because he didn't seem to know this woman. Master Cho does not like to be disturbed when he is carving. Therefore, please leave immediately. The pretty lady looked down at Zhuowen in a condescending manner as she spoke in an indifferent voice. The woman's voice was gentle, but her tone contained a trace of dominance and unquestionable meaning. Could it be that they also know that this ordinary-looking Cho is somewhat unusual? Seeing that the woman in front of him was so considerate of Cho, Zhuowen could not help but be stunned. Compared to Zhuowen's doubts, the woman in front of him was full of depression. She had heard from the family elders that the owner of this store was an extremely powerful expert. Therefore, the young girl was not to casually offend this person. Otherwise, when the time came, it would cause trouble for the family. Therefore, the woman believed that the owner of the store must be an expert. She came over almost every day to help Cho manage the store with the goal of becoming his disciple. Moreover, she asked about his well-being, hoping that Cho would accept her and teach her a move or 2. However, Cho did not care about her concern. Every time she came, she would be treated coldly. This was something that the rather arrogant woman could not accept. With the woman's originally arrogant character, being treated so coldly by Cho naturally filled her heart with resentment. However, her resentment naturally would not be directed at the unfathomable Cho. Now, Zhuowen, who had suddenly barged in, was used as a punching bag by her. Narrowing his eyes, Zhuowen indifferently glanced at the woman and said, "Remove your dog's paw. Can't you see that I want to go in?" "What? Say it again." The woman could not help but be stunned when she heard Zhuowen's words. It was as if she could not believe what she had heard. Her tone became heavier as she said, "Can you not be so despicable as a person? I scolded you once and you insist on hearing it a second time. How despicable can you be? Since you insist on hearing it a second time, I'll satisfy you. I said, remove your dog's paw immediately and open your dog eyes wide. I'm going in now." Shaking his head, Zhuowen held his forehead and said with a helpless look. The atmosphere instantly became somewhat strange. The woman's cheeks paled, then turned green, then white. A thick layer of killing intent surfaced in her beautiful eyes. Pointing at Zhuowen, she shouted, "Do you know who I am? I am the niece of the Zhao clan's first young master, Zhao Yaoding. If you immediately kneel down and break your own arms, this lady will not pursue the matter of your rude words just now." Zhao Yaoding's people again. What a troublesome fellow. With a cold snort, Zhuowen waved his right hand and slapped the woman's jade-like hand away. He was about to directly enter the counter. "Damn it! Do you want to die?" The lady did not expect that Zhuo Wen would actually continue to act in his own way without any scruples after hearing the name of the Zhao clan. Immediately, her face was abnormally furious. Her jade-like hand suddenly waved and was wrapped in intense yuan power as it slapped towards Zhuo Wen's back. Feeling the strong wind behind him, Zhuo Wen's eyes flickered with a cold light. He had already been merciful by not attacking directly. The woman's cultivation was only at the initial human king realm. If Zhuo Wen really attacked, he could immediately cripple her. However, he did not do so. However, now that the woman had taken an inch and wanted a mile, Zhuo Wen did not restrain her. He shook his shoulder and a powerful yuan power suddenly spread out. Then, he turned around and threw out a punch. Suddenly, an invisible ring-shaped air wave appeared in the air and violently collided with the strong wind behind him like an air explosion. Puff! Zhuo Wen stood motionless like a boulder. However, the lady who wanted to launch a sneak attack suddenly spat out a large mouthful of blood as if she had been struck by lightning. Subsequently, she shot backwards like a fallen leaf. Upon seeing this, the two men behind her immediately unleashed their yuan power and violently caught the flying lady. However, the enormous force caused the two of them to involuntarily stagger. What a powerful force! Feeling the huge force in their hands, the two men were shocked. They looked at Zhuo Wen with a trace of fear in their eyes. Brat! You will not have a good ending if you offend our Zhao clan. Moreover, Master Qiu's strength is not something we can compare to. If you disturb Master Qiu, I'm afraid you will die miserably. The woman held her chest and her breathing became rapid. When she saw that Zhuo Wen still intended to walk toward Qiu, who was still concentrating on carving, the resentment on her face became more intense. She said coldly. Based on her interactions with Qiu over the past few days, she could feel that Qiu was an extremely cold person. Moreover, his hidden strength was extremely powerful. After all, even the elders of their Zhao clan did not dare to offend Qiu. Naturally, he was very powerful. Therefore, when she saw that Zhuo Wen was still walking toward Qiu, the woman's face was not shocked. Instead, she was happy. Looks like there is no need for our Zhao clan to take action. This brat is so arrogant and despotic. Once he disturbs Master Qiu, he will definitely be dissatisfied and angry. At that time, I will be able to see Master Qiu take action with my own eyes. Humph, this brat will definitely die this time. The woman thought viciously in her heart. After the woman's rather vicious warning, Zhuo Wen only shrugged his shoulders. He walked in front of Qiu at the counter and snatched the wooden carving from his hand. He muttered, "Old man, you are still pretending. Don't you want to get rid of the hidden danger in your body?" Seeing Zhuo Wen snatch the wooden carving from Qiu's hand without any scruples, the woman could not help but be stunned. However, the cold sneer in her heart became even more intense. She knew that Zhuo Wen had completely offended Qiu. With Qiu's cold and perverse temperament, he would definitely not let the young man in front of him off easily. Just as the woman continued to sneer in her heart and thought that Zhuo Wen would definitely be killed by Qiu on the spot, she saw Qiu slowly raise his head. After looking at the young man in front of him, a rare smile appeared on his ferocious face. This smile was something that the woman had never seen before. "Little brother, you are indeed a man of your word. Today, you have indeed come to the shop as promised." Slowly putting down the carving knife in his hand, the smile on Qiu's face became even more intense. It was so intense that it had even reached a level of enthusiasm. At the entrance of the shop, the woman, who was supported by two men, could not help but feel her mind go blank when she saw the enthusiastic smile on Qiu's face. She had never thought that Qiu, who was known for being cold and indifferent, would actually reveal such an enthusiastic smile. This really caused the woman's mind to be unable to wrap itself around it. What is the background of this kid? Even Master Qiu is so enthusiastic towards him. The woman's lips squirmed a little, but she was rather bitter as she muttered to herself. At the same time, a thick feeling of unwillingness slowly rose from her heart. Thinking back, for so many consecutive days, she had worked like a horse for Cho Cho and served him like a servant. However, Cho Cho simply did not care about her. However, now that this unfamiliar young man had appeared, he actually became so enthusiastic. This caused the woman to feel extremely wronged in her heart. My heart is thinking about that piece of metal. Naturally, I want to conclude the deal between us as soon as possible. After all, we are only taking what we need. Zhuowen said with a lazy smile. That's true. Cho Cho nodded in agreement. Just as he was about to speak, the woman, who had been ignored all this time, suddenly opened her mouth. The woman bit her lower lip with her pearly white teeth and said somewhat hesitantly, Master Cho. Cho Cho, who had been interrupted, frowned slightly as he glanced at the woman and said indifferently, There is no need to call me Master Cho. I have never said that I wanted to take you as my disciple. Also, you don't have to come in the future. I am very clear about the tricks in your heart. Chapter 260. Extreme cold freeze, get lost. Don't bother me in the future. Cho Cho waved his hand somewhat impatiently. Immediately, a heart-palpitating yuan power gale immediately spread out. The lady was suddenly startled. Along with the few people beside her, they all involuntarily retreated out of the shop under the effect of this gale. Creak. The shop's door also closed at this moment, leaving the lady and the other two standing in front of the door in a daze. So strong. No wonder the clan elders are so afraid of Elder Cho Cho. But what exactly is that young man's identity, to actually be treated so courteously by Elder Cho Cho? The lady's eyes were filled with a complicated expression as she softly sighed. Inside the shop, Cho Cho had a slight smile on his face as he rubbed his hands and said, Little friend Zhuowen, it's time for you to expel the extreme cold freeze for this old man, right? Of course. However, Elder, you should first hand over that metal piece to me. When the time comes, I will naturally expel the cold aura from your body. After all, we have a business relationship. Slightly nodding his head, Zhuowen extended his hand and smiled. How can this old man go back on his words? Take it. Cho Cho was somewhat displeased. He took out the metal piece and tossed it to Zhuowen before continuing. However, this old man has to remind you that although this metal piece is a little strange, this old man has studied it for many years and has yet to discover anything special about it. Receiving the metal piece, Zhuowen's face immediately revealed a joyous expression. As for Cho Chao's reminder, Zhuowen simply did not take it to heart. After all, he possessed the lightning snake wings in his body and had already indirectly received the inheritance of the 6 wings of wind and lightning. Therefore, this metal piece might be a piece of scrap metal in the hands of others, but in his hands, it was like a treasure. Then let's begin. Smiling as he kept the metal piece into his Chenkuan bag, Zhuowen said in a happy mood. Cho Cho somewhat hesitantly glanced at Zhuowen before finally nodding his head and said, Little friend Zhuowen, this old man's injuries will completely depend on you. You must be careful. Of course. However, this will require your cooperation. After all, it is rather dangerous for the earth fire to enter one's body. Therefore, when I use the earth fire, please don't make any moves to resist. Zhuowen's expression was rather indifferent as he spoke indifferently. Cho Cho nodded his head as the yuan power within his body surged. The robes on his body instantly tore apart, revealing his well-built upper body. Zhuowen snapped his right hand and a wisp of 9 heavens thunder inferno flame immediately gushed out from his fingertip. At the same time, the mental energy within his Naiwen palace also slowly gushed out. Like a rope, it wrapped around the wisp of thunder flame at his fingertip. After which, Zhuowen's fingertip suddenly pressed into the Xian-yin acupoint on Cho Chao's back. With a puff sound, the thunder flame at his fingertip drilled into Cho Chao's body. Cho Chao's entire body trembled as he involuntarily let out a suppressed groan. Evidently, the feeling of the earth fire entering one's body was not very pleasant. With his finger pressed against Cho Chao's back, Zhuowen used his spiritual energy to continuously guide the wisp of thunder flame, rapidly shuttling through the meridians in his body. What caused Zhuowen to be somewhat shocked was that within Qiu Chao's 8 extraordinary meridians, it was practically covered in a blue cold air. This cold air was the extremely difficult to deal with extreme Arctic frost. As it continued to penetrate deeper, the wisp of thunder flame finally reached his bones. Through the senses of his mental energy, Zhuowen could sense the scene wherever the thunder flame went. When he sensed that the surface of Qiu Chao's bones was actually covered in a thick layer of blue ice, his eyebrows involuntarily knitted together. The corrosion of the extreme Arctic frost has actually reached his bones. I truly did not expect that Qiu Chao's injuries had already reached such a serious stage. As he muttered to himself, Zhuowen's face was filled with a grave expression. Treating the symptoms requires treating the root of the problem. The cold air in the meridians is relatively easy to expel. However, the extreme Arctic frost in his bones is rather troublesome. I must first expel the cold air deep within his bones. His gaze flickered for a moment before Zhuowen's mind moved. The wisp of thunder flame that had penetrated deep into Qiu Chao's body immediately became much more vigorous, while its temperature also violently rose. As the temperature of the thunder flame rose, Qiu Chao's tightly shut eyes instantly twitched a few times. A trace of pain surfaced on his face, while his loosened hands also gently clenched. As his eyes gradually narrowed, Zhuowen deeply inhaled a breath of air. His mental energy relaxed, causing the thunder flame to become even more vigorous. Soon after, the thunder flame emitted a faint muffled sound, before directly surging and completely enveloping Qiu Chao's bones. Ah! Qiu Chao's eyes abruptly widened in anger. His mouth was wide open as he actually directly let out a painful groan. His voice appeared rather hoarse and dry. Endure it. The extreme Arctic frost has already directly penetrated your bones. If you want to completely expel it, you must first expel the cold air within your bones. Zhuowen's right hand suddenly pressed down, pressing down on Qiu Chao's trembling body as he spoke with a solemn expression. Then I'll have to trouble little friend Zhuowen. When Qiu Chou heard this, a glint abruptly flashed across his eyes. With regards to his injuries, he was naturally very clear. Just as Zhuowen had said, the extreme Arctic frost had already penetrated into his bones. Now that Zhuowen had pointed it out, Qiu Chao's confidence in Zhuowen increased by several degrees. He clenched his teeth and endured the intense pain that felt as if his bones had been broken, and did not make another sound. Hiss! The extreme Arctic frost was indeed the most powerful Earth-grade cold air. When the raging thunder flame completely enveloped the bones, the extreme Arctic frost that had adhered to the surface of the bones was immediately like a threatened poisonous snake as it suddenly erupted with a blue cold air, intending to retaliate. Buzz buzz buzz. The cold air actually formed a small whirlwind on the bones, instantly blowing a large hole in the thunder flame that had almost completely enveloped the bones. Soon after, an extremely cold air was immediately released from this hole, pouncing towards the thunder flame in layers. For a moment, the nine heavens thunder blaze was actually directly suppressed by this cold air. Looks like one type of earth fire is indeed insufficient. This extreme Arctic frost is truly abnormal. After secretly cursing, the fire saint symbol in Zhuowen's left hand immediately became blazing hot. Soon after, 3,000 green lotus flames erupted. The green fire lotus directly entered Qiu Chao's body when it appeared, and swiftly penetrated deep into his bones at a speed that was akin to blowing dry leaves and smashing rotten wood. Boom! When the two earth fires merged, an extremely powerful aura erupted. A low and deep explosion sounded out like a lit fuse. However, what made Zhuowen rather impressed was that Qiu Chao's body had already undergone a tremendous transformation, yet he still gritted his teeth and did not utter a single word. Clearly, Qiu Chao's temperament and willpower were extremely terrifying. Break for me. At this moment, Zhuowen no longer had any misgivings. A trace of ruthlessness flashed across his eyes as his mind suddenly moved. The nine heavens thunder blaze and the 3,000 green lotus flames in Qiu Chao's body merged together, and an extremely powerful flame energy suddenly erupted. With the fire saint symbol in his possession, Zhuowen's fire control skills could be said to be at the grandmaster level. A technique like forcefully merging two types of flames was something that Zhuowen could do easily. Boom boom boom. When the two types of earth fires merged together, it immediately suppressed the extreme Arctic frost that was like a maggot in one's bones. At the same time, Cho Cho let out a muffled groan and violently spat out a mouthful of blood. His expression became somewhat dispirited, but he still gritted his teeth and did not utter a single word. A trace of joy appeared on Zhuowen's face as he felt the extreme Arctic frost continuously being suppressed in his bones. Soon after, Zhuowen immediately controlled the extreme Arctic frost that had been suppressed by the two types of earth fires and continuously pulled it out of his body. Swoosh! Qiu Chao's body violently trembled as a ball of blue crystal swept out from his body. At the same time, the temperature in the shop suddenly dropped at a frightening speed. A thick layer of ice began to condense on the floor and the shelves in the shop. Is this the extreme Arctic frost? The cold energy contained within it is truly terrifying. Looking at the surroundings that had instantly turned into a world of ice and snow, Zhuowen's eyes shone brightly as he could not help but exclaim in admiration. However, this extreme Arctic frost is just right for me. With a faint smile, the ice saint symbol on the back of Zhuowen's right hand immediately released a dazzling blue light. Soon after, an ancient suppressive force suddenly acted on the blue crystal that was quietly suspended in midair. After all, the ice fire saint symbol was a supreme treasure of heaven and earth. It possessed the power to subdue the unique flames and cold energy of heaven and earth. Although the ice fire saint symbol in Zhuowen's hand was only incomplete, it was still not something that an earth-rank cold energy like the extreme Arctic frost could resist. Buzz! The blue crystal let out a slightly unwilling buzz as it was directly suppressed and absorbed by the ice saint symbol. Swoosh swoosh! At the same time, the 9 heavens thunder inferno and 3,000 blue lotus flames that had remained in Qiu Chao's body returned to Zhuowen's body. The harvest this time was quite bountiful. Not only did I obtain the lightning serpent wings, I even managed to subdue an extremely powerful earth-rank cold energy like the extreme Arctic frost. In terms of strength, the extreme Arctic frosts might has already surpassed the 9 heavens thunder inferno and 3,000 blue lotus flames. With the extreme Arctic frost in my hands, even an ultimate Emperor realm expert would be wary and have a headache, Zhuowen thought excitedly with a faint smile. Moreover, what made Zhuowen the most excited was that ever since he had obtained the 9 heavens thunder inferno and 3,000 blue lotus flames, he had lacked the corresponding earth-rank cold energy. Now, the extreme Arctic frost had made up for the missing earth-rank cold energy. Now that he had both the earth fire and the earth-rank cold energy, Zhuowen knew that he could use the ice fire saint symbol to completely combine these two somewhat abnormal energies. From there, he would be able to create an ice fire that was comparable to heavenly fire. Its power was probably enough to injure an ultimate Emperor realm expert. What a lucky kid! You were able to gather such a powerful earth-rank cold energy just by casually treating someone. Looks like your ice fire saint symbol will come in handy once again. Xiao Hei's voice suddenly rang out in his mind. Hee. Even an ultimate Emperor stage expert would have to avoid the ice fire created from the earth-rank ice and fire energy. Zhuowen grinned as he spoke in a rather happy manner. Even so, with your current physique, I'm afraid that you won't be able to endure such a powerful ice-fire energy. Therefore, this Dragon Lord suggests that you cultivate a body tempering technique first, Xiao Hei suddenly said in a rather serious manner. Hearing these words, the smile on Zhuowen's face faded. The side effects of the ice fire were extremely great. Zhuowen naturally knew that if one's cultivation level was not high enough or if one's physical body was not strong enough, it was likely that Zhuowen would be killed by the ice and fire energy before the ice fire could be created. Looks like I need to get a body tempering technique. Zhuowen laughed bitterly as he muttered to himself. Boom! Chapter 261. Xuanai, what a powerful aura! Zhuowen's pupils shrank as he turned to look at Qiu Chou, who was not far away. Qiu Chou was currently sitting on the ground as waves of powerful aura continuously surged out from his body. It was as if a great beast was awakening within his body. Bang bang bang! With Chiu Chiu as the center, spiral-shaped air waves continuously spread out in all directions. The shelves in the shop were instantly turned into dust under the effect of the air waves. Even Zhuo Wen could not help but retreat continuously. This aura is not something that an ordinary Ultimate Emperor Realm expert can emit. Could it be that Chiu Chiu was originally this powerful? Zhuo Wen forcefully stopped himself as he stomped his foot on the ground. His eyes were filled with fear as he looked at Chiu Chiu, who was at the center of the countless waves of qi. Kid! You guessed right. Chiu Chiu's strength has probably reached the level of a three-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm expert. Furthermore, from the looks of it, he seems to have comprehended something. It's very likely that his strength will reach the level of a four-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm expert in a short period of time. Xiao Hei's voice suddenly rang out in Zhuo Wen's mind, causing him to be stunned. He's actually a three-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm expert. Where did this Chiu Chiu come from? This kind of strength is simply overwhelming in Broken Rock City. I'm afraid that even Broken Rock City's City Lord, Ouyang Yuntu, would not be a match for Chiu Chiu. Zhuo Wen's eyes narrowed as he spoke with some surprise. Once a cultivator reached the Ultimate Emperor realm, every round of advancement was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Furthermore, every time a cultivator advanced, their strength would undergo an earth-shattering change. According to Zhuo Wen's knowledge, Broken Rock City's City Lord, Ouyang Yuntu, was only a two-wheel Ultimate Emperor realm expert. However, this kind of strength was nothing more than a three-wheel Ultimate Emperor realm expert like Chiu Chiu. It's been 10 years. The extreme frost has been tormenting this old man for 10 years. Finally, this damned frost chi has been completely removed today. Chiu Chiu laughed heartily towards the sky. His laughter was filled with joy and relief. He was clearly a peerless expert, but his strength had been restricted by the extreme frost. This kind of feeling of being in fear was indeed sullen. Moreover, this kind of situation had persisted for 10 years. It was no wonder that Chiu Chiu could laugh so wantonly after he was released. Little friend Zhuo Wen, it's all thanks to your help this time. If it weren't for you, this old man would have to suffer the torment of the extreme cold and wouldn't be able to escape it for the rest of my life. So please accept this old man's bow. After regaining his senses, Chiu Chiu's expression suddenly turned solemn as he earnestly sized up Zhuo Wen. Under the latter's astonished gaze, he raised his head and bowed. Senior Chiu, there's no need to be so courteous. It's just a normal transaction between us. After all, I've also received a lot of benefits from you. Zhuo Wen helped him up and said rather embarrassedly. After all, the person in front of him was a genuine Ultimate Emperor realm expert. Zhuo Wen felt a little strange that such an expert was bowing so respectfully to him. How can this old man's life be taken lightly? Although it's true that we've made a transaction, you're the only one who's been able to expel the extreme frost from my body for 10 years. Therefore, this old man still owes you a favor. At this point, Chiu Chiu flicked his finger. A jade talisman turned into a ray of light and shot into Zhuo Wen's palm. This jade talisman contains the teleportation formation that this old man has refined. If you encounter any danger, feel free to crush it. At that time, this old man will directly come to your side and help you resolve this crisis. Zhuo Wen was stunned. He looked at the jade talisman in his hand and couldn't help but reveal an expression of wild joy. He knew that this jade talisman represented the assistance of this Ultimate Emperor realm expert. A Ultimate Emperor realm expert was at the peak of strength in the entire Qing Xian Empire. To be able to obtain a favor from such an expert was undoubtedly an extremely fortunate thing for Zhuo Wen. Many thanks, Senior Chiu. Zhuo Wen smiled as he kept the jade talisman. He cupped his hands together in gratitude. There's no need to thank me. Chiu Chiu waved his hand and suddenly turned his head to look at the messy shop around him. He sighed softly and said, "It's been 10 years. I never imagined that 10 years would pass so quickly. It's time for me to leave this place." Chiu Chiu's gaze was complicated as he sized up the surrounding shelves. He suddenly waved his right hand and the scattered half-finished wooden carvings immediately floated into the air. Then, under Chiu Chiu's power, they were all reduced to dust. After doing all this, Cho Cho no longer had any lingering feelings. With a stomp of his foot, he turned into a ray of light and disappeared from the spot. Little friend Zhuowen. If you encounter any trouble, immediately crush the jade talisman. This old man will definitely be waiting for you. The moment Cho Cho left, Cho Chow's voice sounded in Zhuowen's ears. Gazing at Cho Chow's departing figure, Zhuowen's eyes contained a trace of complexity. He never imagined that he would be able to meet a reclusive expert like Cho Cho in a random little shop. However, in the end, he still did not know where Cho Cho came from. Let's not think about this anymore. Now that I have the Thunder Dragon wings, I'll go back and see if I can comprehend it. Tomorrow, I still have to go to the Zhao family to find Zhao Wenxian and meet the head of the Zhao family. Aunt's matter cannot be delayed. Otherwise, I won't be able to explain it to grandfather when I return. Shaking his head, Zhuowen mumbled in a low voice and directly left the shop. Pitch-black darkness slowly descended, as if a black dragon had covered the sky. The entire world fell into silence. Within the loft, Zhuowen's gaze slightly sunk as he stared at the blue metal piece in his palm. His face revealed a pondering expression as he muttered to himself, in order to obtain the Thunder Dragon Wings cultivation method within the metal piece, I should also need to use the power of lightning to stimulate it. As he spoke, Zhuowen's right hand was filled with an endless amount of lightning energy. It sizzled as it poured into the metal piece in his hand. As expected, the metal piece quickly reacted. Soon after, countless words formed by lightning transformed into a screen of light that floated in midair. The first thing that entered his eyes was the three large words Thunder Serpent Wings. Following that was a dense list of cultivation methods for the Thunder Serpent Wings. With the experience of cultivating the Thunder Serpent Wings, Zhuowen comprehended the Thunder Serpent Wings very quickly. Time flew by and in a flash, a night had passed. That night, Zhuowen had basically been comprehending the Thunder Dragon Wings. However, it was a pity that the difficulty of cultivating the Thunder Dragon Wings was much higher than the Thunder Snake Wings. Thus, until now, he had only scratched the surface. The difficulty of cultivating the Thunder Dragon Wings is many times higher than the Thunder Snake Wings. Looks like if I want to completely comprehend it, I'm afraid that I'll need at least a few months. As he stretched his back, Zhuowen shook his head and clicked his tongue. Transforming a snake into a dragon is not an easy task. Among the lightning wings, the Thunder Snake Wings is the simplest cultivation method. The Thunder Dragon Wings is the middle level while the Thunder Dragon Wings is the most difficult. If one's talent is not enough, the Thunder Dragon Wings is simply not easy to cultivate. Xiao Hei's cold voice suddenly sounded in his mind. Shrugging his shoulders, Zhuowen ignored Xiao Hei's mocking words. Instead, he pushed open the door with large strides and walked out. He had previously agreed with Zhao Wenxian to visit the Zhao family in 2 days. Today was already the second day. Zhuowen decided to pay a visit to the Zhao family and inquire about his aunt's whereabouts at the same time. Walking out of the courtyard, Zhuowen saw from afar that Grandmaster Tsangmu was leading 2 figures as they slowly walked over. What surprised Zhuowen was that Grandmaster Tsangmu's face revealed a rather respectful expression. Shifting his gaze slightly, Zhuowen focused his attention on the 2 people beside Grandmaster Tsangmu. One of them looked to be in his 40s. His hair was white and he was a middle-aged man who always had a warm smile on his face. The other person was a woman in her 20s. However, when Zhuowen's gaze shifted to the woman's face, a trace of amazement involuntarily appeared on his face. This woman had a slender figure, and her eyes were as clear as a spring in a secluded forest. She was cold and arrogant, and she had an exquisite face, long and slender eyebrows. A veil that was like snow tightly outlined her curvaceous body, and it contrasted with her exposed skin, causing the woman to have a trace of an icy charm that was difficult to conceal. If one merely looked at this woman, one would be attracted by the faintly discernible ice-cold charm emitted from her body. It would make a man involuntarily want to completely conquer this ice-cold beauty and make her ice-cold face blossom with the most sincere smile for him. Although this woman's appearance could not be compared to Mu Chenxue, the unique temperament on her body always emitted a rather seductive feeling. Old Master Tsang Mu. Zhuowen walked forward. Just as he was about to call him old man, he saw Grandmaster Tsang Mu continuously giving him a meaningful glance. Left with no choice, Zhuowen could only temporarily change the way he addressed him. Zhuowen. This is the president of Broken Rock City's Arcane Guild, Master Kuya. He's a bona fide grade 4 advanced arcanist. Even Broken Rock City's city lord, Ouyang Yintu, doesn't dare to disrespect him. Seeing that Zhuowen was so respectful, the smile on Grandmaster Tsang Mu's face became even wider. He hurriedly pointed at the middle-aged man beside him and introduced him to Zhuowen. Greetings, Master Kuya. In front of a grade 4 arcanist, Zhuowen did not dare to have the slightest arrogance. Moreover, Master Kuya in front of him was an advanced grade 4 arcanist. His strength and status were not inferior to an ordinary marquis. With such a status, Zhuowen naturally did not dare to have the slightest neglect. He must be the Zhuowen that you've been praising endlessly. His talent is indeed not bad. At such a young age, he already has an advanced grade 2 mind power. If there are no accidents, in a few years, this child may become a grade 3 arcanist. Master Kuya looked kindly and smiled as he sized up Zhuowen. Hearing this, Grandmaster Tsang Mu naturally could not stop smiling. After all, it was not that easy to receive praise from the president of the Arcane Guild. The path of mind is not that easy to cultivate. He is indeed talented to be able to reach the advanced grade 2 arcanist at the age of 17. However, to reach grade 3 before the age of 20 is simply a fool's dream. I'm afraid that he may be stuck at the advanced grade 2 arcanist until the age of 20 without the slightest progress. The cold-faced woman suddenly glanced sideways at Zhuowen and sneered. Xuanai. Don't be presumptuous. Master Kuya's face darkened slightly as he said in a displeased tone. Chapter 262. Zhao Xuanlu. Master Kuya helplessly glanced at his cold disciple in front of him. He clearly knew how arrogant his disciple was. He also knew that his disciple had the qualifications to be arrogant. She started cultivating mental energy at the age of 10, broke through to grade 1 at 12, reached complete grade 1 at 13, and became a grade 2 arcanist at 14. After that, she used only a year to reach complete grade 2. At that time, Xuanai was only 15 years old. However, the mental energy path was originally more difficult as one progressed. Even with Xuanai's monstrous talent, she used a full 5 years to go from complete grade 2 to initial grade 3. From this, one could see how difficult it was to advance to grade 3. However, Master Kuya had said that Zhuowen could become a grade 3 arcanist in a few years. Wasn't this indirectly saying that Zhuowen's talent was not inferior to hers? With Xuanai's arrogant character, she was naturally unhappy. Zhuowen's brows furrowed slightly as he gazed at Xuanai, who kept pointing at him. He really didn't like Xuanai's attitude of looking down on him. It made it seem like she was the most talented and everyone else was mediocre. Being stuck at complete grade 2 for a full 5 years, is this speed and talent very high? Aren't you a little too conceited? With a cold smile, Zhuowen unceremoniously retorted. What do you know? You haven't even reached complete grade 2. How would you know how difficult it is to break through to become a grade 3 arcanist? At the end of the day, you're just a frog at the bottom of a well. Xuanai coldly stared at Zhuowen. Her cold face was suddenly filled with ridicule. Frog at the bottom of a well? Who exactly is the frog at the bottom of the well? I will let you know at the Arcana ceremony in 5 days. Teacher Kuraki, Master Kuya, I still have things to do. I will take my leave first. Zhuowen really could not stand this girl who was bursting with confidence in front of him. After bidding farewell to Master Kuraki and Master Kuya, he did not stay any longer. He's quite stubborn. Don't tell me that this fellow wants to participate in the Arcana ceremony. But even if this kind of trash participates, he will be eliminated in the first round. Want to compete with this lady? What a fool's dream. Looking at Zhuowen's departing figure, the corner of Xuanai's mouth was filled with a sneer. Master Karaki's face was a bit ugly. After all, Zhuowen was his disciple. Now that Xuanai was speaking ill of Zhuowen in front of him, Master Karaki's heart was filled with anger. However, Xuanai was Master Kuya's personal disciple after all, so Master Karaki didn't dare to fall out with her. However, he secretly thought to himself, Zhuowen's spiritual force isn't weaker than this girl's, it's even stronger than hers. This girl is such a snob. Let's see how Zhuowen will surprise her in the Arcana ceremony in 5 days. The Zhao clan's residence was quite far from the loft where Zhuowen lived. One was in the north, while the other was in the south. After passing through a few streets, Zhuowen finally arrived in front of the main gate of the Zhao clan's residence. The main gate of the Zhao clan's residence was very imposing. Stone lions dozens of feet tall stood on both sides, holding bowl-sized stone pearls in their mouths. On top of the stone lions was a huge red lacquer gate. At the gate stood 2 guards with vigilant expressions. Stop! This is the Zhao clan's residence. Unauthorized personnel are not allowed to enter. The 2 guards crossed their weapons in front of Zhuowen and said coldly. However, when the 2 guards noticed the rank 2 Arcana Master badge on Zhuowen's chest, their hands suddenly trembled. The coldness on their faces suddenly faded and was replaced with a trace of flattery. The young man in front of them was a rank 2 Arcana Master. This identity was not someone they could afford to offend. Sir, may I know what business you have with our Zhao clan? Looking at the guards in front of him who changed their expressions as quickly as drinking water, Zhuowen sighed in his heart. He finally understood how useful this Arcana Master badge was. At the very least, when others met him, they were polite and did not dare to be the slightest bit disrespectful. I have been invited by the young lady of your Zhao clan, Zhao Wenxian, to visit today. I hope the 2 of you can inform her. Zhuowen glanced at the interior of the residence and said indifferently. So you are the young lady's friend. I will go in and inform her. One of the guards said respectfully. Then, he hurriedly entered the residence. It was likely that he had gone in to inform her. Not long after, a petite figure appeared in the residence. This figure was naturally Zhao Wenxian. Zhao Wenxian, who had appeared at the entrance, quickly saw Zhuowen. Her pretty face immediately lit up and she quickly walked in front of Zhuowen. Big brother Zhuowen, you've finally come. Zhao Wenxian's face was flushed red. She did not dare to look directly at Zhuowen. However, when her gaze swept past Zhuowen's chest, her beautiful eyes immediately stared at the badge on his chest. A trace of shock flashed through her eyes. Big brother Zhuowen, you are also a grade 2 Arcana Master? Zhao Wenxian could not help but ask. There was still a trace of shock in her beautiful eyes. She knew that the young man before her was only around 17 years old, yet he actually possessed the strength of a rank 2 Arcana Master at such an age. Zhao Wenxian couldn't help but be extremely shocked. Moreover, she knew that Zhuowen's cultivation in the martial Dao was extremely terrifying, and his cultivation had already reached the Earth King realm. She never thought that the young man before her would be such a genius in both martial and mental strength. This caused Zhao Wenxian to feel even more admiration in her heart. Every young girl hoped that the man they admired would be perfect. At this moment, Zhuowen was the man Zhao Wenxian admired in her heart. However, she did not dare to say it out loud. Nodding slightly, Zhuowen smiled and said, I've come to disturb you today. I want to see your father. Is that okay? Yes. Of course you can. Father really wants to see you after hearing about your deeds. Come, I'll bring you to see my father. Zhao Wenxian grabbed Zhuowen's arm and led Zhuowen into the residence with a blush on her face. Zhuowen did not mind Zhao Wenxian's intimate actions. After all, the little girl in front of him was only around 13 years old. Zhuowen only treated her as a little sister. Naturally, his mind did not have any improper thoughts. Not long after Zhuowen and Zhao Wenxian left, a black shadow suddenly appeared in a corner of the residence. This black shadow looked deeply at Zhuowen's back and muttered in a low voice, it seems that this young man called Zhuowen is not simple. He's actually a grade 2 Arcana Master. Looks like this is not going to be easy. I need to go back and ask for the eldest young master's opinion. After saying that, the black shadow seemed to evaporate and disappeared on the spot in an instant. In a rather grand pavilion to the east of the Zhao residence, Zhao Yaoting's brows were knitted together. He stared at the black shadow in front of him and said, "That Zhuowen is actually a grade 2 Arcana Master? Shadow, are you sure you didn't see wrong?" The black shadow was pitch black, and his facial features could not be distinguished at all. He was like a shadow. This black shadow was Zhao Yaoting's trusted general, codenamed Shadow. His strength was at the advanced Heavenly King stage. However, Shadow's attack method was very strange. It was like a shadow, making it impossible to guard against. Shadow once had a glorious record of killing a cultivator at the advanced Heavenly King stage. That Zhuowen has a grade 2 Arcana Master badge on his chest. This badge is unique to the Arcane Guild, so it shouldn't be fake. Master, are we still going to prepare to kill this Zhuowen? Shadow hesitated for a moment before replying coldly. Cancel the assassination operation first. I really didn't expect this kid to be a grade 2 Arcana Master, and his martial arts realm is even more powerful. Even Zhao Wuji is not his match. This kid's talent is really terrifying. The Arcane Guild is not to be trifled with. If they know that I killed a genius of the Arcane Guild, I'm afraid I won't be able to live. Zhao Yaoting narrowed his eyes. When the Arcane Guild was mentioned, his eyes were full of fear. He knew very well how powerful the Arcane Guild was in Broken Rock City. This force was so powerful that even the City Lord's mansion had to bow to it. This was also the reason why Arcanists had such a high status in Broken Rock City. Then what should we do? This Zhuowen has killed many of Master's men. Even Zhao Wuji, whom you valued the most, was killed by him. Don't tell me that we are just going to let this go. Aning said somewhat unwillingly. Humph. Compared to this Zhuowen, Zhao Wuji is just a fart. This kid alone is worth hundreds or thousands of Zhao Wuji. If I can win this kid over, then the position of the Zhao family's patriarch will be at my fingertips. Zhao Yaoting's eyes flashed as he spoke. I've seen this kid before. I don't think Zhuowen is easy to win over. Shadow shook his head. Ha! In the face of enough benefits, anyone will be swayed. This kid is too young and obviously doesn't know much about the ways of the world. This kind of person is actually the easiest to win over. Zhao Yaoting's lips curled into a smile as he said indifferently. Following Zhao Wenxian, they passed through several pavilions and finally stopped at a very large attic. Inside the attic was a large hall. At this moment, a middle-aged man with a solemn expression was sitting in the depths of the hall. Obviously, this man should be the patriarch of the Zhao family, Zhao Xuanwu. In the hall, other than Zhao Xuanwu, who was sitting on the main seat, there was also a woman sitting on the second seat. Zhuowen was also familiar with this woman. She was the woman in tight clothes who escorted Zhao Wenxian back then, Zhao Tongyu. The arrival of Zhuowen and Zhao Wenxian immediately attracted the attention of the two people in the hall. Zhao Xuanwu looked straight at Zhuowen. There was a burst of light in the depths of his eyes, like a sharp sword that pierced into Zhuowen's heart. At the same time, a fierce aura suddenly pressed towards Zhuowen. Humph! With a stomp of his foot, his entire body was covered in lightning. In an instant, he broke through this aura and stepped into the hall as if nothing had happened. Zhao Xuanwu looked at the youth in front of him with some astonishment. The fierce aura he released earlier was naturally to test him. Zhao Xuanwu didn't really believe that the youth in front of him, who had been praised to the skies by Zhao Wenxian and Zhao Tongyu, could kill Zhao Wuji at such a young age. However, after Zhuowen broke through his aura in such a leisurely manner, he finally knew that the youth in front of him was indeed very strong. He smiled slightly and was about to speak when Zhao Tongyu suddenly exclaimed, "Zhuowen, you're actually also an Arcana Master?" When Zhao Xuanwu heard this, the smile on his face immediately froze. His gaze swept towards Zhuowen's chest. When he discovered that there were two golden lines on the badge on his chest, his pupils suddenly shrank. Chapter 263. Chapter 263 Whereabouts, You must be Zhuowen, right? I'm Zhao Xuanwu, the head of the Zhao clan, and also Wen Qian's father. The fact that Wen Qian and Tongyu were able to return safely is all thanks to you, little friend Zhuowen. Zhao Xuanwu's eyes flickered as he laughed heartily and walked towards Zhuowen with a warm smile on his face. Uncle, you flatter me. Actually, I have come here this time specifically to pay a visit to Uncle. Zhuowen smiled slightly and said in a rather courteous manner. Oh? Visit me? Zhao Xuanwu was slightly stunned. He glanced at Zhao Wenqian and Zhao Tongyu suspiciously. The two women didn't seem to have told him that Zhuowen would specifically look for him. I don't think little friend Zhuowen would visit me for no reason. Since you've come to look for me, please speak your mind. As long as this humble one is able to help, this humble one will do his best to help. After pondering for a moment, Zhao Xuanwu laughed heartily. Right now, his position in the family was weak, and Zhao Yaoting's power was extremely great. Although he was the patriarch of the Zhao family, the power he could mobilize was not as great as Zhao Yaoting's. Therefore, when he heard that Zhao Wenqian and the others were assassinated by Zhao Yaoting, although Zhao Xuanwu was furious, he did not dare to do anything to Zhao Yaoting. Although the Zhuowen in front of him was young, being able to kill Zhao Wuji meant that Zhuowen's strength was not weaker than an ordinary Heavenly King stage cultivator. This kind of strength was of great help to him. Moreover, what Zhao Xuanwu valued the most was Zhuowen's status as a rank 2 Arcana Master. To be able to become a rank 2 Arcana Master at the age of 17 meant that his talent was much greater than even that of Ouyang Yateo from the City Lord's mansion. Thus, he knew that Zhuowen definitely had an extremely powerful master behind him. He knew that if he could pull the young man in front of him to his camp, his influence in the family would most likely surpass Zhao Yaoting's. At that time, he would have the strength to completely eliminate Zhao Yaoting's greatest threat. Zhuowen casually took a seat below. Then, he shot a glance at Zhao Wenqian and Zhao Tongyu. His eyes flickered as he said, "There are no outsiders here. So, I'll speak frankly. I wonder if Uncle has heard of the name Zhuo Meijin." Zhuo Meijin. How do you know this name? Ha! Your surname is Zhuo as well. Could it be that you're a descendant of Meijin? Zhao Xuanwu frowned and looked at the young man in front of him curiously. Seeing Zhao Xuanwu's reaction, a trace of joy flashed in Zhuowen's eyes. It seemed like Zhao Xuanwu knew about his aunt. He hurriedly said, "Zhuo Meijin is my aunt. If Uncle knows of my aunt's whereabouts, I hope you can tell me. I will definitely thank you." "You're Meijin's nephew?" Zhao Xuanwu's face revealed a trace of surprise. Then, he said rather sadly, "If you want to find your aunt, I'm afraid you'll be disappointed. 10 years ago, your aunt had already." At this point, Zhao Xuanwu's face suddenly became somewhat dispirited and gloomy. Frowning slightly, Zhuowen faintly felt that something was amiss. He hurriedly asked, "What happened to my aunt? What exactly happened 10 years ago? Your aunt is no longer alive. She married into our Zhao family 10 years ago. Half a year later, there was a sudden news that she had contracted a serious illness and passed away. Originally, I had a good relationship with your aunt. Back then, when the news spread, I wanted to see her one last time. However, that fellow Zhao Yaoting refused to let us meet. Furthermore, he had sealed off all information regarding Meijin." At this point, Zhao Xuanwu's eyes flashed with a trace of anger. "Zhao Yaoting? The person my aunt had married back then was this Zhao Yaoting?" Narrowing his eyes, Zhuowen's eyes flashed with a trace of coldness. Back then, Zhao Yaoting had suddenly come to ask for her hand in marriage. Half a year later, his aunt had suddenly died. Furthermore, all information regarding his aunt had been sealed off. All of these indicated that there was definitely a hidden story behind this. Zhao Xuanwu's eyes flickered. Finally, he nodded lightly. "Back then, the one who sent people to assassinate your daughter was Zhao Yaoting. You should know about this as well." Why don't you bring him to justice? Looking at the somewhat silent middle-aged man in front of him, Zhuowen frowned and said with slight displeasure. From Zhuowen's point of view, Zhao Yaoding was the head of the Zhao family after all. His authority and status were unique in the Zhao family. Furthermore, he had the advantage of reason. It was entirely possible for him to convict Zhao Yaoding. However, Zhao Xuanwu did not move for a long time. This caused Zhuowen to be rather puzzled and dissatisfied. Unexpectedly, Zhao Xuanwu laughed bitterly and said somewhat helplessly, "Little friend Zhuowen, there's something you don't know. In fact, my title as the head of the Zhao family is somewhat undeserved. Although Zhao Yaoding is not the head of the family, his influence in the Zhao family is extremely great. Furthermore, the elders of the family are biased towards Zhao Yaoding. If it weren't for Zhao Yaoding's fear of our ancestor, I'm afraid he would have already taken action to seize the position of the head of the family." When Zhuowen heard this, a strange expression appeared on his face. He did not expect that the head of the Zhao family in front of him would be in such a miserable state. The family's influence and prestige were actually inferior to Zhao Yaoding's. How strong is Zhao Yaoding? Also, who are the powerful people under him? Zhuowen knew that if he wanted to thoroughly investigate Zhua Meijin's past, he would have to start with Zhao Yaoding. The only way at present was to completely overthrow Zhao Yaoding's influence in the Zhao family. Zhao Xuanwu was stunned for a moment before his face revealed an expression of ecstasy. He knew that the youth in front of him wanted to kill Zhao Yaoding. After all, Zhua Meijin had married into the Zhao family because of Zhao Yaoding. Zhua Meijin's death was definitely greatly related to Zhao Yaoding. If he wanted to know the truth of that year, he had to overthrow Zhao Yaoding. In Zhao Xuanwu's eyes, Zhuowen was extremely mysterious. Not only was he powerful, but he was also a grade 2 arcana master. The youth in front of him was undoubtedly a great help to him. Actually, Zhao Yaoding's influence is about the same as mine. However, it's mainly because the Great Elder of the Elders Guild favors Zhao Yaoding. That's why I'm in such a passive position in the Zhao family. As long as the Great Elder is restrained, Zhao Yaoding won't be able to do anything at all. However, the Great Elder's cultivation is already at the peak of the Heavenly King stage, and his strength is only below the ancestors. When Zhao Xuanwu said this, a bitter smile appeared on his face. After all, his strength was only at the peak of the Heavenly King stage, which was on par with Zhao Yaoding. However, the Great Elder of the Zhao family, whose strength was monstrous, favored Zhao Yaoding. This made him, the head of the family, rather passive. Oh! So it's only at the peak of the Heavenly King stage. I thought you were at the peak of the half-step Ultimate Emperor realm. Then let me deal with the Great Elder. Let's go capture Zhao Yaoding as soon as possible. Today, I must find out the cause of my aunt's death from him. With a cold smile, Zhuowen's eyes flashed with a bone-chilling coldness. As soon as Zhuowen said this, the atmosphere in the hall immediately became strange. Among them, Zhao Xuanwu, Zhao Tongyu, and Zhao Wenqian all looked at the youth in front of them with strange expressions. Wasn't Zhuowen's words a bit too arrogant? Did he think that he could deal with the Great Elder at the peak of the Heavenly King stage? Cough cough. Little friend Zhuowen, although your strength is indeed not bad, the Great Elder is after all an existence second only to the ancestor of our Zhao family. Are you sure you can deal with the Great Elder alone? Zhao Xuanwu coughed dryly and couldn't help but roll his eyes. However, he felt a little helpless in his heart. This Zhuowen in front of him seemed too young and impetuous. He actually dared to challenge the Great Elder. Wasn't this courting death? Zhuowen, although you are strong and can kill Zhao Wuji, the Great Elder is after all a peak Heavenly King stage expert. He is one of the more famous experts in the entire Broken Rock City. He is not someone Zhao Wuji can compare to. Zhao Tongyu suddenly opened her mouth and said with a strange expression on her face. Originally, she quite admired Zhuowen, but after hearing Zhuowen's words, she shook her head and a trace of disappointment appeared on her face. Zhuowen's words made her think that Zhuowen was too arrogant. Yes. Big brother Zhuowen, don't be rash. Since Zhao Yaoding can be so arrogant in the Zhao family, he naturally won't be so easy to deal with. We should first prepare a foolproof plan before dealing with him. Zhao Wenxian gritted her teeth and said with disappointment. Obviously, her thoughts were similar to Zhao Tongyu's. Looking at the opposition of the three people in front of him, Zhuowen shook his head and said, "There's no need. As long as it's not an ultimate emperor stage expert, I think I can deal with it." Zhao Xuanwu was a little angry at Zhuowen's stubbornness. After all, it was too risky to have a showdown with Zhao Yaoding now. If Zhuowen couldn't restrain the Great Elder, his position as the Zhao family's patriarch would probably come to an end. The consequence would be that his faction might be wiped out by Zhao Yaoding forever. He wasn't willing to use his family's life to accompany this crazy brat in front of him. "You don't believe me?" Glancing at the somewhat angry Zhao Xuanwu, Zhuowen snorted faintly and patted his chinkuan bag. A huge black shadow suddenly appeared in the hall. This figure was 9 feet tall, with black armor on its body. Its face was as resolute as iron, but its somewhat dull eyes didn't have the slightest bit of vitality. This figure was Zhuowen's reverse spirit puppet. Boom! As soon as the reverse spirit puppet appeared, a powerful aura burst out like a mountain. It actually formed countless spiral-shaped waves of air in the hall, swirling in all directions. The aura of a perfected Heavenly King stage expert? Feeling the powerful aura that suddenly burst out from the reverse spirit puppet, Zhao Xuanwu's pupils suddenly shrank. His entire body trembled, and his lips trembled as he muttered. Although Zhao Xuanwu's voice wasn't loud, it was still heard by Zhao Tongyu and Zhao Wenxian, who were not far away from the hall. The two girls' cherry lips suddenly opened slightly, and their jade-like hands covered their mouths. They looked at the reverse spirit puppet that suddenly appeared beside Zhuowen in disbelief. They didn't expect that Zhuowen actually had a perfected Heavenly King stage expert by his side. Chapter 264. Zhao Family Turmoil Gulp. Zhao Xuanwu's throat involuntarily twitched as he stared at the reverse spirit puppet in front of him. The shock in his eyes had yet to completely fade. Where did this Zhuowen come from? He actually has a perfect Heavenly King stage puppet, and his strength is not weaker than an initial Heavenly King stage cultivator. I didn't expect Mei Jin to have such a powerful descendant. As he thought to himself, the anger on Zhao Xuanwu's face instantly disappeared. Instead, there was a look of ecstasy on his face as he said, "Good, good, good. I really didn't expect little friend Zhuowen to have such a puppet on him. Then we have a 90% chance of dealing with Zhao Yaoding this time." Zhao Tongyu and Zhao Wenxian also recovered from their shock. The two women were pleasantly surprised. However, there was a complicated expression on their faces. They realized that the youngster before their eyes was like an unfathomably deep pool. They simply couldn't see through him. "Our goal is the same. There's no time to lose. Let's take down Zhao Yaoding as soon as possible. After all, you are the patriarch of the Zhao family, and Zhao Yaoding once sent someone to assassinate your daughter. You have every reason to take him down. If he doesn't obey, then it'll be just as we wish." A cruel smile appeared on the corner of Zhuowen's mouth as he stared at Zhao Xuanwu. Little friend Zhuowen is right. We'll set off for the Heavenly Mist Pavilion immediately. Zhao Xuanwu nodded slightly and said with bright eyes. After about an incense stick's worth of time, Zhao Xuanwu was ready to go. He and Zhuowen led the personal guards to the Heavenly Mist Pavilion in the south of the Zhao family mansion. The Heavenly Mist Pavilion was naturally Zhao Yaoding's pavilion. Shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. The sound of orderly footsteps suddenly sounded throughout the Zhao family mansion. Then, the clansmen in the Zhao family mansion were shocked to find that the patriarch, Zhao Xuanwu, was fully armed with a large number of personal guards behind him. They rushed straight to the south. What's going on? Why did the patriarch mobilize the personal guards? Logically speaking, the patriarch wouldn't mobilize the personal guards if it wasn't too big of a matter. The direction of the personal guards seems to be the Heavenly Mist Pavilion. Is the patriarch going to have a showdown with young Master Zhao Yaoding? No way. Young Master Zhao Yaoding had the support of the great elder. How could the patriarch dare to lay his cards on the table with the young master? After all, Zhao Yaoding is like the sun in the midday sky in the Zhao family now. If we lay our cards on the table with Zhao Yaoding now, wouldn't the family head suffer a great loss? Along the way, the appearance of the personal guards immediately attracted the attention of the Zhao clan members. When they realized that the personal guards were heading towards the Heavenly Mist Pavilion, their faces were filled with disbelief. The competition between Zhao Yaoding and Zhao Xuanwu was no secret. Everyone knew that Zhao Yaoding had always had the upper hand, while Zhao Xuanwu, the head of the family, was suppressed by Zhao Yaoding. This result caused many family members to slowly lean towards Zhao Yaoding's side. At this moment, Zhao Xuanwu's actions with such great fanfare naturally caused the numerous Zhao clan clansmen to be extremely surprised, and they all had their own guesses in their hearts. Inside the Heavenly Mist Pavilion, Zhao Yaoding slammed the table and said with narrowed eyes, "Since when did Zhao Xuanwu become so bold? You actually dare to bring your personal guards to my Sky Mist Pavilion? Could it be that he wants to capture this young master?" "Master! I'm afraid that Zhao Xuanwu and that Zhuowen have reached some sort of agreement. This time, they probably came with ill intentions." In the corner, Shadow's low voice slowly rang out. "Humph! That Zhuowen is only a rank 2 Arcana master. Although he was able to kill Zhao Wuji, does Zhao Xuanwu think that he has the power to go against me just by relying on that Zhuowen? That's too laughable. Shadow, immediately gather the guards and invite the great elder over." Zhao Yaoding's eyes flashed as he said, "Understood." Shadow coldly replied, before he completely disappeared from the loft. Narrowing his eyes, Zhao Yaoding coldly laughed, "Since Zhao Xuanwu wants to lay his cards on the table with me, then I have no more reservations. When the time comes and I kill that Zhao Xuanwu, the old ancestor will have no reason to blame me and the position of patriarch will naturally become mine." Not long after, Zhao Xuanwu, Zhuowen and the rest brought a group of personal guards to the Heavenly Mist Pavilion. Looking at the luxurious pavilion in front of them, Zhao Xuanwu said in a serious tone, "That's the Heavenly Mist Pavilion. I believe that Zhao Yaoding is already on guard against us with such great fanfare. Even if he is on guard, we are not afraid. Also, when we make our move later, leave that Zhao Yaoding to me. After all, my aunt's disappearance is related to him. I want to personally ask him how my aunt died." Narrowing his eyes, Zhuowen said in an ice-cold voice. "You want to deal with Zhao Yaoding yourself?" "No, Zhao Yaoding's strength has already reached the advanced Heavenly King stage. His strength is not weaker than mine. If you fight with him, I'm afraid you will be at a disadvantage." Zhao Xuanwu frowned. Obviously, he did not agree with Zhuowen challenging Zhao Yaoding alone. "Uncle, don't worry. If I am not confident in something, Zhuowen will not do it. Since I have decided to do it, it means that I know what I am doing," Zhuowen said with a faint smile. Hearing this, Zhao Xuanwu also fell silent. Although the young man in front of him was very young, his style of doing things was quite shrewd. He could feel the strong confidence of the young man beside him and thought to himself, "This Zhuowen has obviously never been at a disadvantage before. It's good that he is at a disadvantage this time. When the time comes, if he really can't handle it, I can help him." Thinking of this, Zhao Xuanwu also nodded slightly, agreeing to Zhuowen's request. Dang dang dang. The sound of countless footsteps suddenly rang out. Zhuowen and his group had already charged into the courtyard of the Sky Mist Pavilion in a grandiose manner. At this moment, Zhao Yaoding was standing in the courtyard with his head held high. There was also a pair of fully armed guards behind him. They were glaring at Zhuowen, Zhao Xuanwu and the rest who had just entered. "Oh! Isn't this Lord Patriarch? Why do you have the time to come to my Heavenly Mist Pavilion today? Could it be that you are a little tired of the position of Patriarch and want to give it to someone else?" Zhao Yaoding glanced at Zhuowen indifferently. Then, his gaze gathered on Zhao Xuanwu and the corners of his mouth were filled with a mocking smile. Beside Zhao Yaoding stood a grey-robed old man with white hair and beard. The old man's eyes were as bright as the stars and an extremely powerful aura continuously surged out from his body. This old man was the great elder of the Zhao clan, a true peak heavenly king stage practitioner. Xuanwu. Today, it was not a wise choice for you to bring your personal guards to the Heavenly Mist Pavilion. I can give you a chance. If you leave now, we will not pursue the matter of your offense today. The great elder shook his head slightly and spoke in a somewhat earnest manner. The great elder's words caused the mocking smile on Zhao Yaoting's face to become even more intense. He knew that he had the support of the great elder and Zhao Xuanwu would definitely lose if he fought with him. However, Zhao Xuanwu had come in anger today. If he retreated because of this, his prestige in the Zhao clan would plummet. At that time, it would be even more impossible for Zhao Xuanwu to fight against him. Therefore, although the great elder's words seemed to be a kind reminder, it was actually incomparably vicious. If he did not retreat, he would have to accept defeat. If he retreated, he would lose his prestige. This was the great elder's overt scheme. Old bastard! Do you really think that I don't know what you're planning? This Zhao Yaoting has repeatedly tried to assassinate my loved ones. He doesn't even want to let my daughter off. Today, I, Zhao Xuanwu, must eliminate such a vicious and cunning person. With the support of Zhuowen's reverse spirit puppet, Zhao Xuanwu was much more confident as he coldly laughed. The great elder frowned slightly. He did not expect that Zhao Xuanwu would not retreat even after he had said so much. Furthermore, he dared to speak such arrogant words. This caused a trace of anger to surface in the great elder's heart. Xuanwu, since you're courting death, don't blame me for being merciless. With a cold snort, the great elder took a step forward. His entire body turned into a ghost as he directly charged towards Zhao Xuanwu. Old bastard, do you still have any shame? As an elder of our Zhao clan, you actually plan to assassinate me, the head of the Zhao clan? Aren't you afraid that the ancestor will blame you? Zhao Xuanwu's expression changed. He did not expect the great elder to directly attack and could not help but snort angrily. Head of the clan. After today, the position of the head of the Zhao clan will be changed. With this old man stepping forward, the ancestor will not blame me. Therefore, Xuanwu, you can go in peace. The great elder's old face trembled. The killing intent in his eyes became even more intense. His attack was even more merciless. It was obvious that he planned to kill Zhao Xuanwu with a single blow. Boom! Just as the great elder was only a step away from Zhao Xuanwu, a burly figure suddenly appeared. Then, this figure suddenly threw a punch. It was wrapped in endless waves of air as it rumbled towards the great elder. The first elder's pupils abruptly shrunk. He hurriedly lifted his skinny hands in an attempt to block the attack. He did not expect that someone would suddenly appear in front of him and attack him. Hence, he was caught off guard. Bang! The circular waves of air spread out in circles. Then, the huge fist finally smashed into the great elder's arms. Then, under the somewhat shocked gazes of the crowd, the great elder actually took 5 steps back. In the end, he only stopped after breaking the bluestone floor. A warrior at the peak of the Heavenly King realm? How is this possible? Stabilizing his body, the great elder could not help but exclaim. He looked at the burly reverse spirit puppet that suddenly appeared in front of him in disbelief. The great elder's exclamation immediately attracted everyone's attention. When Zhao Yaoting and the others discovered that the great elder was actually repelled, they could not help but gasp. Then, their gazes converged on the reverse spirit puppet that repelled the great elder. How is this possible? How could Zhao Xuanwu have a martial artist at the peak of the Heavenly King stage by his side? Could it be that this expert was brought here by Zhuowen? Zhao Yaoting's pupils constricted. His thoughts became a little chaotic. In the end, his gaze focused on the calm-looking youth not far away. He knew very well that it was impossible for Zhao Xuanwu to have such an expert by his side. Thinking of Zhuowen's sudden visit to Zhao Xuanwu today, as well as Zhao Xuanwu's abnormal behavior today, it was obvious that the person who caused Zhao Xuanwu to have a showdown with him was definitely this ordinary youth. Chapter 265. 10,000 Shadow Blade Boom. Boom! Boom! Countless waves of air immediately swirled in the entire courtyard. The battle between the reverse spirit puppet and the Great Elder instantly erupted. The powerful strength of a peak Heavenly King stage expert was instantly revealed. Invisible ripples continuously spread out in the air, as if even the space was about to be torn apart. It's actually two peak Heavenly King stage experts. What power! It seems that the expert fighting with the Great Elder should be from the Patriarch's side. No wonder the Patriarch dared to come to the Heavenly Mist Pavilion today to challenge Zhao Yaoding. It turns out that he also has a peak Heavenly King stage expert by his side. I'm afraid there's going to be a good show to watch now. The numerous members of the Zhao clan who had gathered outside the Sky Mist Pavilion also saw the reverse spirit puppet and the First Elder, who were constantly exchanging blows in midair. Their eyes were filled with shock. The reverse spirit puppet did not know what exhaustion was at all. It simply threw punch after punch at the Great Elder. There was no pattern or technique, but every punch could always explode with an extremely ear-piercing sound of air exploding. The enormous power contained in the fist made the Great Elder feel bitter in his heart. Looking at the Great Elder who was at a disadvantage in the air, Zhao Yaoding's face immediately darkened. There was a hint of shock in the depths of his eyes. He coldly stared at Zhao Xuanwu in front of him and said, "Zhao Xuanwu, it seems that I have underestimated you. However, do you think that you can defeat me with the help of a peak Heavenly King stage expert? I think you're dreaming. Whether it's a dream or not, we'll know very soon." Zhao Xuanwu's face was filled with a sneer. "Humph! I will kill you before that happens. As long as you are dead, no one will dare to stop me. Zhao Xuanwu, you and I have fought for many years. Let me see how much you've improved over the years." Zhao Yaoding suddenly took a step forward, and a powerful aura instantly surged out from his body. As expected, you're at the Advanced Heavenly King stage. It seems that you haven't slacked off all these years. Your strength has also reached the Advanced Heavenly King stage. However, your opponent today is not me. Zhao Xuanwu's eyes narrowed slightly, and then he said casually. "Not you?" Hearing this, Zhao Yaoding could not help but be stunned. Whoosh! At the same time, a rushing wind sound suddenly swept over from the side. Zhao Yaoding's pupils shrunk a little as he coldly snorted and turned around to throw a punch. Endless yuan power practically formed layers of astral winds within his fists, which finally collided with the incoming wind with a loud bang. Rumble! A violent explosion suddenly sounded. Zhao Yaoding staggered and retreated a few steps. With the help of his retreat, he steadied himself and stared at the young man beside him with an extremely gloomy gaze. The youth's figure stood tall with a black spear in his hand. He raised his right hand and pointed the tip of the spear at Zhao Yaoding's head. "Are you Zhuowen? Our Zhao family has nothing to do with you, so why are you interfering with our Zhao family's matters? If you and your people can stand by and do nothing, Zhao Yaoding, am willing to give you a high-grade soul treasure. How about it?" Zhao Yaoding frowned slightly. He did not put the youth in front of him in his eyes. After all, his strength was only at the Advanced Earth King stage. However, he had already guessed that the middle-aged man at the peak of the Heavenly King stage who was fighting with the Great Elder was definitely one of the young man named Zhuowen. To be able to have a peak Heavenly King stage warrior by his side, moreover, this Zhuowen was a Grade 2 Arcana Master. All of this indicated that the identity of the youth in front of him was not ordinary. Zhao Yaoding, who was cautious by nature, was naturally quite fearful of him. Zhao Yaoding's somewhat soft words immediately caused some of the Zhao family members to be a little surprised. Then, they all focused their gazes on the youth standing with the spear. Even Zhao Yaoding was so fearful of this ordinary youth in front of him. Just where did this youth come from? Let me ask you a question. If your answer satisfies me, then I will withdraw. Zhuowen's eyes flickered as he said with a cold expression. Question. When Zhao Yaoding heard this, he immediately heaved a sigh of relief. He did not expect the youth in front of him to have such low requirements. He only wanted to ask a question. Go ahead and ask. As long as I know, I will definitely not hide it from you. Good. A trace of light flashed in Zhuowen's eyes as he planted the spear on the ground. He looked straight at Zhao Yaoding and continued, 10 years ago, you married a woman. That woman's name was Zhuo Meijin, right? When Zhao Yaoding heard this, his pupils involuntarily shrank. His expression was slightly unnatural as he nodded and said, 10 years ago, I did marry a woman called Zhuo Meijin. Are you related to her? Without answering Zhao Yaoding's question, Zhuowen continued, I heard that half a year later, Zhuo Meijin suddenly died. I want to know the cause of her death. Huh. So it's about this matter. At that time, my wife accidentally fell seriously ill, so she suddenly died. At that time, I was quite sad. After all, my relationship with my wife was quite good. Before Zhao Yaoding could finish his words, he was interrupted by Zhuowen. Are you still lying? Since you don't have the slightest bit of sincerity, after I capture you later, I will naturally make you tell me what happened back then. Zhuowen's expression abruptly turned ice cold. He no longer spoke as his foot suddenly stomped on the ground. Lightning flickered as his entire body disappeared from the spot like a ghost. When he reappeared, he was already above Zhao Yaoding. With a shake of his right hand, a few star-like spear glows immediately shot out and swept towards the back of Zhao Yaoding's head. When he saw Zhuowen's actions, Zhao Yaoding suppressed a breath of resentment in his heart as he coldly said, since you insist on interfering, don't blame me for being merciless. Today, I will first finish you off, then finish off that Zhao Xuanwu. Patting his Qinquan bag, Zhao Yaoding immediately pulled out a large golden blade with a long handle from within. Both of his hands held it horizontally behind him. A clanging sound rang out as his long blade accurately blocked the spear light that was coming from a tricky angle. Zhuowen's gaze hardened as he instantly recognized the golden broadsword in Zhao Yaoding's hand. It was a high-grade soul treasure with extraordinary power. With a cold snort, Zhuowen did not retreat. Instead, he advanced. The 5 fingers of his right hand suddenly moved and the demon moon dragon spine spear immediately began to rotate violently. It drew a silver arc in the air as it aimed for Zhao Yaoding's head. Demon Moon's secret manual, Moon-filled pavilion. Like a bright moon that was gradually born from a pavilion, the silver light arc that the spear shadows drew in the air was mixed with killing intent. You want to kill me? With your Earth King stage cultivation, it is still not enough. Sky supporting blade art, horizontal blade slash. Zhao Yaoding's expression was calm and unhurried. His right hand tightly gripped the hilt of his blade as he raised it horizontally. A golden blade shadow cut through the air as it ruthlessly swept towards the spear shadow. Rumble. The collision between the spear light and the saber light was like an explosion of energy. Countless scorching heat waves rose up in the surroundings, spreading out in a circular shape. Many cultivators had no choice but to retreat under the effect of these heat waves. Dang dang dang. The two of them both retreated. Zhuowen retreated 10 steps, while Zhao Yaoding only retreated 5 steps. Obviously, without using his trump card, there was still a certain gap between Zhuowen and an advanced Heavenly King stage martial artist. Father. I'm afraid that big brother Zhuowen is no match for Zhao Yaoding. You should lend him a hand. Seeing that Zhuowen was at a disadvantage, a trace of worry immediately appeared on Zhao Wenxian's pretty face as she pulled Zhao Xuanwu, who was beside her, to ask for help. Wenxian, don't worry. If little friend Zhuowen is really no match for Zhao Yaoding, I will naturally make a move. After all, he boasted that he would challenge Zhao Yaoding alone. Letting him suffer a loss now will definitely be beneficial to his future growth. However, Zhao Xuanwu shook his head slightly as he looked at the two people facing each other in the courtyard with bright eyes. When he saw that Zhuowen was actually able to exchange a few blows with Zhao Yaoding, and was only at a disadvantage, Zhao Xuanwu was rather surprised. After all, the gap between the Earth King stage and the Heavenly King stage was extremely huge, and Zhuowen was only at a disadvantage when facing Zhao Yaoding, who was at the advanced Heavenly King stage. This Zhuowen's talent is truly terrifying. He is clearly only at the Earth King stage, but Zhao Yaoding is actually unable to do anything to him for a while. If this child's cultivation is also at the Heavenly King stage, I'm afraid he will become extremely terrifying. However, the gap between the Earth King stage and the Heavenly King stage is quite large. This Zhuowen should be about the same. At that time, I will still need to take action. Zhao Xuanwu narrowed his eyes as he muttered to himself. Humph. You have some ability, no wonder you dare to fight me one-on-one. However, this is all you can do. The gap between the Heavenly King stage and the Earth King stage is not as simple as you think, so prepare to die. With a cold snort, Zhao Yaoding waved his right hand, and the sound of a blade slicing through the air suddenly rang out. Following that, Zhao Yaoding actually waved out countless blade shadows in an instant, and these blade shadows turned into countless black half-arcs in front of him. Heaven supporting blade art, 1000 shadow blade. Brat, this move will send you to heaven. With a low roar, Zhao Yaoding swung the saber in his hand diagonally. Countless saber shadows in front of him whizzed through the air like raindrops, heading straight for Zhuowen. They covered the sky and covered the earth in an endless stream. Not good. Zhao Yaoding actually used the strongest move of the heaven-supporting blade art, the 1000 shadow blade, so quickly. I'm afraid that Zhuowen is in danger. Looking at the rain-like blade shadows, Zhao Xuanwu immediately turned pale with fright. However, the speed of the countless blade shadows was too fast, and he had no time to block them. He could only watch as the 10,000 blade shadows enveloped Zhuowen's body. No! Zhao Wenqian also saw the figure enveloped by the countless blade shadows. Her pretty face instantly turned deathly pale, and she involuntarily cried out in alarm. What an overconfident brat! You still want to fight with me, humph! Looking at the youth who was almost drowned by the blade shadows, Zhao Yaoding laughed heartily. A cruel arc appeared at the corner of his mouth as he coldly said. Zhao Yaoding, this Zhuowen is the genius of the Arcane Guild. Aren't you afraid that you'll provoke our Zhao family by killing him today? Zhao Xuanwu was shocked and furious. Even he did not expect this to be the outcome. He was too careless just now. Provoke? As long as I kill all of you, naturally no one will know that Zhuowen died in our Zhao family's hands. Since this brat is dead, now it's your turn, my dear Lord Patriarch. Zhao Yaoding sneered, and stared at Zhao Xuanwu. I'm not dead yet. Are you in such a hurry to leave? Suddenly, a clear voice rang out. Chapter 266. Boiling with anger, a figure was faintly discernible as he slowly walked over from the place where countless blade shadows overlapped. Countless blade shadows swirled in the air, their power seemingly able to tear the air apart. However, this figure seemed to be taking a leisurely stroll as he slowly walked over. What was even more bizarre was that on the back of this figure, a pair of enormous lightning python wings had unknowingly extended and coiled around each other, enveloping this figure within them. The countless saber shadows in the outside world were all blocked by this pair of lightning python wings. This figure was naturally Zhuowen. When Zhao Yaoding's 10,000 shadow blade was about to reach him, Zhuowen had instantly activated his lightning snake wings. Although the main advantage of the lightning snake wings was its ghostly speed, it was still able to wrap Zhuowen with both wings. Its defense was also quite impressive. Although it was a little difficult to defend against the attacks of an Ultimate Emperor realm expert, it was more than enough to stop Zhao Yaoding, who was only at the advanced Heavenly King realm. How is that possible? This kid is not dead, and he seems to be unharmed. Zhao Yaoding's pupils shrank as he exclaimed in disbelief. Even Zhao Xuanwu and Zhao Wenqian, who had been worried about Zhuowen's safety, could not help but suck in a breath of cold air when they saw the figure amidst the thousands of saber shadows. They were very clear about the power of the heaven-bearing saber technique, especially after Zhao Yaoding used the last move of the heaven-bearing saber technique, the 10,000 shadow saber technique. Its power was so terrifying that it could injure a martial artist at the peak of the Heavenly King realm. However, the youth in front of them, whose cultivation was only at the profound Earth King realm, not only did he not die under the 10,000 shadow saber technique, but he even walked over leisurely as if those terrifying saber shadows were nothing more than a drizzle. I'm sorry to disappoint you. Your 1,000 shadow blade didn't kill me. It didn't even scratch a single hair on my body. Are you sure this is your strongest move? All of a sudden, Zhuowen came to a halt. Soon after, the lightning serpent wings that wrapped around him suddenly spread open. Countless lightning bolts swirled in the air, turning the area within 30 feet of his body into a lightning domain. Under the impact of the lightning energy, the countless blade shadows completely collapsed into nothingness. Soon after, Zhuowen's calm and somewhat delicate face was revealed. Impossible. You're just an insignificant Earth King realm martial artist. How could you break my 1,000 shadow saber? Zhao Yaoding came back to his senses, and he suddenly seemed to have lost his soul. So noisy. A trace of impatience flashed across Zhuowen's face. With a gentle flap of the lightning snake wings on his back, he transformed into a thunderbolt and arrived in front of Zhao Yaoding in an instant. The demon moon dragon spine spear in his right hand was suddenly swung. It was accompanied by an endless amount of spear light as it shot towards Zhao Yaoding's head. It's not that easy to kill me. Zhao Yaoding also felt Zhuowen's sharp spear aura and immediately sobered up. A trace of ruthlessness flashed in his eyes as he tightened his grip on the hilt of his saber and instantly swung out countless saber shadows. 1,000 shadow saber. I don't believe that you can block my 1,000 shadow saber at such a close distance. Clang clang clang. The endless saber shadows were like a barrier once again, instantly enveloping Zhuowen. Humph. Watch how I break your 1,000 shadow saber this time. Zhuowen coldly snorted. He bit his thumb and rubbed it on the demon moon dragon spine spear. The ink-black spear body instantly turned into a rich blood-red color. Demon Moon's secret manual, Blood Moon Soul Reaping. Break! Break! Zhuowen roared. His voice was loud and clear like a great bell that resounded throughout the entire courtyard. A blood-red full moon suddenly appeared behind Zhuowen's back. A thick bloody aura also spread out. With a thrust of his spear, it was as if the entire blood moon was crushing everything as it directly smashed against the 10,000 blade shadows. Bang! 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 Numerous intense explosion-like loud noises resounded unceasingly over every corner of the courtyard. Soon after, everyone was shocked to discover that the blood-colored full moon in midair and the 10,000 blade shadows were only in a deadlock for the blink of an eye. After which, an ear-piercing cracking sound appeared. Subsequently, the 10,000 blade shadows, which were like a boundary, were shattered in an instant. The countless number of blade shadows disappeared like illusions. Swoosh! After the 10,000 blade shadows were broken, Zhuowen stomped his foot. His right hand extended out like a poisonous snake and grabbed the blood-red long spear in the air. Then, he suddenly swept it out. The long spear was like a long whip as it viciously struck Zhao Yaoding's chest. Plop! Before Zhao Yaoding could recover, the blood spear directly smashed into his chest. A mouthful of fresh blood spurted out like raindrops. His entire body was directly sent flying. He rolled on the ground for over 10 meters before he came to a stop after colliding with a wall. The scene immediately became silent. Regardless of whether it was the Zhao family members, Zhao Xuanwu and the rest, or Zhao Yaoding's guards, everyone stared blankly at the dispirited Zhao Yaoding on the ground. This was an existence that once called the wind and rain in the Zhao family. Am I seeing things? Zhao Yaoding was defeated just like that. Zhao Xuanwu rubbed his eyes as he muttered to himself in disbelief. Father, you're not seeing things. Big brother Zhuowen has indeed defeated Zhao Yaoding. Zhao Wenxian recovered from her shock. Her face was filled with an excited smile. Deep admiration flickered in her crescent-shaped eyes. Sigh. truly a young hero. Originally, this old man thought that Zhuo Wen would suffer a great loss against Zhao Yaoding. Never did I expect that the final result. Zhao Xuanlu gave a self-mocking smile as he took another look at Zhao Yaoding, who was lying on the ground not far away with a dispirited aura. Zhuo Wen's strength had once again greatly shocked him. Who is that young man? He was actually able to defeat Zhao Yaoding. That's too terrifying. This young man looks to be only 17 or 18 years old, but his strength is actually stronger than Zhao Yaoding's. Just how terrifying is his talent? Look, there's an Arcana Master's badge on his chest. He's actually a Grade 2 Arcana Master. The clansmen of the Zhao family, who had gathered outside the courtyard, stared blankly at the scene in the courtyard. They could not imagine that this young man, who looked to be only 17 or 18 years old, actually possessed such terrifying strength. What was even more unbelievable was that this young man's martial cultivation was so high, but his mental energy was also at the level of a second-grade martial artist. This could no longer be described as a genius. This was simply a demonic existence. To be able to raise both his martial way and mental energy to such heights, this young man could only be described as a demonic existence. Boom! At the same time, a skinny figure fell to the ground, smashing a deep pit in the middle of the courtyard. The violent sound immediately attracted everyone's attention. The dust gradually dispersed, and the figure in the deep pit gradually became clear. Then, the Great Elder's somewhat defeated old face appeared before everyone's eyes. The Great Elder's hair was disheveled and his clothes were tattered. He was like a candle in the wind, and his aura was actually even weaker than Zhao Yaoding's. Bang! A burly figure slowly descended and stared at the first elder in the deep pit with an expressionless face. No one knew what this burly middle-aged man was thinking. Come back. There's no need to kill that guy. Zhuowen glanced indifferently at the Great Elder in the pit. After discovering that the Great Elder no longer had any strength to fight, he waved his hand and summoned the reverse spirit puppet back to his side. At this time, the reverse spirit puppet was in a slightly sorry state, but there were no visible injuries. After all, the reverse spirit puppet's physical strength was shockingly tough. Even an ultimate Emperor realm expert would not be able to break its tortoiseshell body. Therefore, although the reverse spirit puppet's strength was only comparable to the peak of the Heavenly King stage, the Great Elder's attack could not hurt it at all. Moreover, the reverse spirit puppet's fighting style was barbaric, exchanging injuries for injuries. If this continued, even if the Great Elder was at the peak of the Heavenly King stage, he would still be exhausted by the reverse spirit puppet. The Great Elder was actually defeated. The pupils of the Zhao clan members shrank again. They did not expect that even the Great Elder, the second strongest expert of the Zhao clan, would be beaten to such a state. Everyone looked at the burly reverse spirit puppet with fear. Especially when the reverse spirit puppet obeyed Zhuowen's words, the fear in the eyes of the Zhao clan members all shifted to Zhuowen. Even the Great Elder had beaten up this mysterious middle-aged man, but now he was actually so obedient to the youth. Everyone knew that the truly terrifying one was the youth in front of them. Whoosh! In an instant, he arrived in front of Zhao Yaoding. Zhuowen stepped on his chest with his right foot and stared at Zhao Yaoding with narrowed eyes. Tell me the true cause of my aunt's death, and I can let you die a quick death. Poochie! Zhao Yaoding spat out another mouthful of blood, but he laughed out loud and said, You're called Zhuowen, and your surname is also Zhua. It seems that you're Zhua Meijin's junior. No wonder you wanted to ask about Zhua Meijin's cause of death. It's a pity that I didn't connect you and Zhua Meijin together. Don't talk nonsense. Hurry up and tell me the cause of my aunt's death. I don't like to say the same thing several times. Once again stepping on Zhao Yaoding's chest, Zhuowen's voice became incomparably cold. His eyes were filled with a terrifying killing intent. Hee hee. You must have some guesses, right? Your aunt didn't suddenly die of a serious illness. Anyway, I'm going to die, so why should I tell you? You can take your time guessing, haha. Zhao Yaoding laughed maniacally. He knew that he was completely done for, and there was no way for him to make a comeback. Even if Zhuowen did not kill him, Zhao Xuanwu would not let him off. You don't want to say it. Do you really think that I have no way of dealing with you? Since I'm an arcana master, I'm naturally proficient in the way of the soul. If you don't want to say it, I'll extract your soul and search it. At that time, the truth will naturally surface, and your soul will be consigned to eternal damnation. You won't be able to reincarnate, and you'll be tormented like hell for all eternity. Soul searching was a rather sinister mental technique. Zhuowen had seen this secret technique in the myriad detection scripture before. Once this secret technique was used, the target would basically become an idiot. In serious cases, their soul would scatter. Moreover, the caster would also suffer from certain side effects. Unless it was absolutely necessary, Zhuowen did not want to use this secret technique. Hearing this, Zhao Yaoding's face immediately revealed a look of fear. Evidently, he had also heard of this sinister secret technique. I'll talk. I'll talk. Zhao Yaoding's entire body trembled. Your aunt did not suddenly die. She was killed by me. His entire body trembling, Zhuowen's eyes widened. He gritted his teeth and said, "Why did you kill her? She was already married to you. Why did you do it?" Bang! Chapter 267. The truth, because she was born in the Yin year, Yin month, Yin day, Yin hour. Otherwise, why do you think I, as the young master of the Zhao family, would marry a nobody from a small family? Zhao Yaoding sneered as he wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. A girl born in the Yin year, Yin month, Yin day, Yin hour? Zhao Yaoding, you actually used the family's taboo technique. No wonder your cultivation improved so quickly in the past 10 years, even catching up to me. Zhao Xuanwu's face turned ugly when he heard this. Uncle, tell me what the taboo technique is. The rage in Zhuowen's heart grew even more intense, and the killing intent in his eyes grew even more intense. Zhuo Meijin was a member of the Zhuo family, and one of the few relatives Zhuowen had left. Now that she had personally heard that her relative had been killed, she was naturally furious. Zhao Xuanwu hesitated for a moment and sighed. Originally, this taboo technique was our Zhao clan's secret. Since this matter involves Brother Zhuowen's aunt, I'll make an exception and tell you about it. Our Zhao family has a taboo technique called Absolute Frost. After successfully cultivating this secret technique, it can completely change a cultivator's physique. It can expand the cultivator's meridians and dantian by many times, increasing the efficiency of yuan qi absorption. Naturally, one's cultivation will also increase rapidly. 10 years ago, Zhao Yaoding's cultivation was only at the half-step human king realm. However, it only took him 10 years to reach the heavenly king realm. This speed defied common sense. After all, his aptitude was not very good in the family. Of course, it was also because of his poor aptitude that the previous family head did not pass the position of family head to him. At this point, Zhao Xuanwu glanced at the dispirited Zhao Yaoding. A trace of pity flashed through his eyes. The dignified young master of the Zhao clan did not inherit the position of the Zhao clan's patriarch. This could be considered a great joke at that time. Zhao Bingtian, that old bastard, I am his son, his biological son. He did not pass the position of family head to me, but instead gave it to you, a branch of the Zhao family. Because of this, I became the laughingstock of the Zhao family. Everyone looked at me strangely. That's why I couldn't accept it. Wasn't that old bastard because my aptitude was lacking? Then I'll practice the absolute frozen chill. In 10 years, my cultivation has indeed caught up to yours, and the position of patriarch is also within reach of me, but... Zhao Yaoding's face was filled with anger, and his expression became exceptionally ferocious. Shut up. Did I allow you to speak? Zhuowen stepped out and viciously stomped on Zhao Yaoding's face. The powerful force caused his face to swell up, and he spat out a mixture of blood and teeth. Zhao Yaoding's eyes flashed with a trace of timidity. Sure enough, he obediently shut his mouth. With regards to Zhuowen's ruthless methods, Zhao Xuanwu felt a chill in his heart. After secretly sighing in his heart that he was lucky enough to be on good terms with Zhuowen, he continued, since it's a taboo technique, the price must be quite expensive. Among them, it requires the essence and blood of a woman of the Yin year, Yin month, Yin day, Yin hour as a primer. Brother Zhuowen, this technique is extremely ruthless. I'm afraid that your aunt's corpse may not even be left. At this point, Zhao Xuanwu softly sighed and looked at Zhuowen with some trepidation. He was a little apprehensive about whether the youth in front of him would burn with rage and vent his anger on the Zhao family. If that was really the case, it would be difficult for the Zhao family to stop the youth in front of him, other than the old ancestor. Essence and blood of the entire body? Not even a corpse. Good, very good. Zhao Yaoding, you've done very well. Zhuowen's expression was extremely calm, so much so that it was frightening. He only spoke word by word. Swoosh! With a twist of his right hand, the moon demon dragon spine spear suddenly shot out. The tip of the spear was like lightning as it instantly pierced towards Zhao Yaoding's forehead. The expression on Zhao Yaoding's face instantly froze, and there was only intense fear left in his eyes. Stop! A monstrous roar like a great bell suddenly whistled out from the depths of the Zhao family's courtyard. The strong sound wave almost caused the surrounding air to vibrate and boil. Zhuowen's spear momentum also paused for a moment because of this loud roar. However, it was only for a moment. Then, the killing intent in Zhuowen's eyes became even more intense, and the speed of the long spear became even faster. You're courting death. This old man asked you to stop. Didn't you hear me? At this moment, the vigorous voice had become even closer. Clearly, the owner of the voice was not far from this place. At the same time, an extremely enormous yuan power rumbled towards Zhuowen from a great distance away, in an attempt to stop his next move. No one can stop the people that I, Zhuowen, want to kill. Reverse spirit puppet, block him for me. Zhuowen's tone was ice cold. The long spear turned into a shadow in the air and instantly pierced Zhao Yaoding's forehead. With a puff, Zhao Yaoding's head instantly exploded, and red and white blood splattered all over the ground. Boom! At the same time, the reverse spirit puppet suddenly blasted out a punch. It was wrapped in an endless explosion of air and blasted on the yuan power that came from far away. However, what shocked everyone was that the reverse spirit puppet, which was showing off its invincible power just now, was directly sent flying by this yuan power and smashed into the ground. However, the remaining yuan power did not diminish. It swept straight towards Zhuowen like a raging wave. Wherever it passed, all the air seemed to explode. So strong! Zhuowen's pupils shrank. He kept retreating. With a wave of the long spear in his right hand, he once again used the Blood Moon Soul Reaper. A huge blood moon slowly emerged and blocked in front of him. Unfortunately, the powerful blood moon was like a piece of paper in the face of this yuan power, and it instantly shattered. This caused Zhuowen's heart to sink. Not good. It's the ancestor. I didn't expect the ancestor to make a move. When Zhao Xuanwu heard the loud shout from the depths of the courtyard, he recognized the owner of the voice. It was their Zhao clan's strongest expert, the Zhao clan's ancestor Zhao Qingtian. He was a genuine half-step Ultimate Emperor realm expert, and his strength was many times greater than the Great Elders. How is this possible? Doesn't the ancestor never care about the clan's affairs? Why would he make a move now? Zhao Wenqian's pretty face was deathly pale. Her cherry lips couldn't help but tremble as she muttered. The ancestor has come out of seclusion. I didn't expect him to make a move against this youth. This youth is in trouble. The ancestor is our clan's strongest expert. He's a half-step Ultimate Emperor realm expert and is only half a step away. He can deal with a peak Heavenly King cultivator like the Great Elder with a flip of his hand. A half-step Ultimate Emperor realm expert is too strong. I'm afraid this youth won't be able to withstand the ancestor's attack. All the Zhao clan members raised their heads and looked towards the depths of the courtyard. That was where their ancestor was in seclusion. Humph. A half-step Ultimate Emperor realm expert. I refuse to believe that I won't be able to withstand this attack. Zhuowen snorted coldly. His eyes were filled with madness. Zhuowen clenched his right hand, and the Saint Rune of Ice in his right hand immediately lit up. Then, a blue crystal slowly floated above his palm. It was the extreme frost that Zhuowen had just extracted from Qiu Chao's body. Extreme frost was known as the overlord of all Earth-grade energies. Its might was not something that ordinary Earth-grade energies could compare to. Even an Ultimate Emperor Realm 3-wheel cultivator like Qiu Chou had suffered greatly under this kind of cold. If it weren't for Zhuowen, Qiu Chou would probably have died. As soon as the blue crystal appeared, the area within 100 feet of Zhuowen immediately turned into a world of ice and snow. Endless cold qi seemed to have frozen this 100-feet space. Zhao Xuanwu and the rest had no choice but to retreat from the courtyard under the corrosion of this cold qi. They stood far away and watched from afar. Boom! Boom! That powerful yuan power instantly reached the ice-snow domain. Soon after, an endless amount of cold air transformed into a violent hurricane that bombarded the yuan power. In merely a quarter of an hour, the yuan power actually turned into an ice sculpture within the ice-snow domain. It fell to the ground and shattered into powder. It was actually able to freeze even yuan power. This extreme frost was indeed powerful. Pfft! Zhuowen involuntarily spat out a mouthful of blood. Zhuowen hurriedly waved his right hand and stored the blue crystal into the Saint Rune of Ice. The extreme frost was simply too powerful. Its corresponding side effects were naturally extremely powerful. With Zhuowen's current meager strength, it was difficult for him to withstand the extreme frost's side effects. My physical body is really too weak. I can't even endure the backlash from the extreme cold ice, let alone using the extreme cold ice to create an ice fire. That kind of backlash is probably enough to take my life. Zhuowen said bitterly in his heart as he wiped away the blood at the corner of his mouth. With his current physical body, it was difficult for him to even withstand the backlash of the extreme frost. It seemed like he needed to get a body tempering technique as soon as possible. He blocked it. Zhuowen, he actually blocked the old ancestor's attack. Zhao Xuanwu's mouth was slightly agape. The shock in his eyes was even more intense. He stared at the skinny youth's figure with an expression of disbelief. The surroundings of the entire courtyard fell into silence at this moment. The pupils of all the Zhao clan members abruptly shrunk and their faces stiffened. They didn't expect that the attack of their Zhao clan ancestor would actually be blocked by the young man before them. Wasn't this young man a bit too abnormal? No wonder you're so arrogant. So you have some capital. Since you dare to kill a member of my Zhao family, you can forget about leaving our Zhao family alive today. A figure suddenly flew over and stopped in the sky above the heavenly mist pavilion. He coldly looked down at Zhuowen. To everyone's surprise, the figure was actually a black-haired youth. His skin was rosy and lustrous, but his eyes seemed to have experienced the vicissitudes of life. He was the Zhao family's old ancestor, Zhao Qingtian. Ultimate Monarch Realm cultivators were already able to see past life and death, and possessed extremely long lifespans. Therefore, when cultivators stepped into the Ultimate Monarch Realm, they would show signs of rejuvenation. Zhao Qingtian looked so young right now, so he was clearly very close to the Ultimate Monarch Realm. Zhuowen narrowed his eyes. He could clearly sense the dense killing intent from the Zhao family's old ancestor. At the same time, Zhuowen could sense that the Zhao family's old ancestor was extremely powerful. If he did not use the 9-will incineration cauldron, it would be very difficult for him to survive. If a half-step Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator is already so powerful, then wouldn't those who have reached the Ultimate Emperor Realm possess monstrous strength that can split mountains? Zhuowen finally understood the strength of an Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator. Thinking back to the Azure Emperor rankings that Qing Lian had mentioned before, Zhuowen also realized that there was still a gap between him and the peak geniuses of the Azure Xian Empire. Old Ancestor. It's not what you think. It's actually Zhao Yaoding. Zhao Xuanwu stepped forward and was interrupted by Zhao Qingtian before he could finish his sentence. You don't have to explain to me. Even if Zhao Yaoding did something wrong, what right does this outsider have to kill a member of my Zhao family? If there's anyone to kill, it should be a member of our Zhao family. For the sake of our Zhao family's prestige, this kid must die. Zhao Xuanlu's face instantly flushed red when he heard this. He was furious in his heart, but he did not dare to say anything. After all, the person before him was his old ancestor. He did not dare to disobey him in the slightest. Kid! Do you know your crime? A member of our Zhao family is not that easy to kill. Zhao Qingtian placed his hands behind his back as he stared coldly at Zhuowen below. Know your sister. Zhao Yaoding killed my aunt. Is it wrong for me to kill him? You old fart, are you blind or retarded? Zhuowen sneered as he cursed unceremoniously. Hiss. Chapter 268. The sullen Zhao family patriarch Zhao Qingtian narrowed his eyes. The killing intent in his eyes grew even thicker as he said, "You're already so arrogant at such a young age. What will happen when you grow up? Today, I'll clean up your family. Die!" Taking a step in the air, Zhao Qingtian's right palm viciously slammed downwards. Boundless yuan power was like a scorching sun as it transformed into a giant palm that appeared above Zhuowen's head. A terrifying pressure descended in an instant, causing the surrounding air to flow in reverse. Zhuowen's expression turned extremely grave. Zhao Qingtian had clearly used all his strength in this attack. If he didn't use the 9-will incineration cauldron, it would be very difficult to block this attack. However, Zhuowen had some reservations in his heart. The 9-will incineration cauldron was an earthly soul treasure after all. If he took it out rashly, the other factions in Broken Rock City would be tempted. At that time, Zhuowen wouldn't be facing just the Zhao family, but all the other factions in Broken Rock City. A man's wealth is his own ruin. Looks like I can only use the 9-will incineration cauldron. Zhao Qingtian's attack is even more powerful than before. I'm afraid that even the extreme frost won't be able to block it. His eyes flickered as Zhuowen pressed his right hand on his Qianquan bag, preparing to take out the 9-will incineration cauldron. Boom! At this moment, Zhuowen suddenly realized that the giant palm above his head had collapsed, turning into countless specks of light. Who is it? How dare you block this old man's path? Are you trying to go against our Zhao family? In the air, Zhao Qingtian's expression changed drastically. His gaze turned slightly as he searched his surroundings. He actually didn't know how his attack had been countered. Zhuowen's expression relaxed. He knew that someone had probably helped him, but he didn't know who it was. After all, to be able to block Zhao Qingtian's attack so easily, that person's strength was at least at the half-step Ultimate Emperor realm. Zhuowen didn't remember knowing any half-step Ultimate Emperor realm expert. The Zhao family is very powerful. Zhao Qingtian, you're quite arrogant. How dare you speak to me like that? A ghostly figure suddenly flew over from afar and headed straight for Zhao Qingtian. Zhao Qingtian was taken aback. Both of his palms struck out like a gust of wind. Countless palm shadows exploded in the air, emitting a dazzling 5-colored radiance. The powerful pressure even caused the space to distort. Petty tricks. The figure snorted coldly. With a gentle wave of his right hand, he easily broke through the countless palm shadows. His feet suddenly stepped into the air as he shot towards Zhao Qingtian at an extremely fast speed. Zhao Qingtian was stunned. Zhuowen was stunned as well. Even the spectating Zhao clansmen were stunned. Zhao Qingtian's full-powered attack, a half-step Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator, had been so easily broken by this mysterious figure that had appeared out of nowhere. Ultimate Emperor Realm expert? This junior has offended you just now. Zhao Qingtian's expression finally changed drastically, and he hurriedly changed his attitude. However, it was already too late. The figure arrived before him in an instant, and roughly grabbed his collar. With a twist of his shoulder, an enormous force instantly surged out. Zhao Qingtian was like a defenseless little chick, plummeting straight down. Rumble. An ear-piercing explosion suddenly rang out, and a huge deep pit immediately appeared in the middle of the courtyard. The Zhao clan members were shocked to discover that the usually high and mighty old ancestor Zhao Qingtian was actually struggling in the deep pit with his face covered in dirt. He looked extremely miserable. Swoosh! The figure instantly arrived in front of the crater. He lifted his foot and viciously stomped on Zhao Qingtian's chest. He coldly said, "Zhao Qingtian, are you very strong? Are you very arrogant?" Pfft! Zhao Qingtian immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. Fear immediately surfaced in his eyes. Only an ultimate Emperor realm expert could defeat him so easily. He couldn't remember offending any ultimate Emperor realm expert. "Sir, let's talk nicely." This lowly one had eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai. "Please spare me." The speed at which Zhao Qingtian's expression changed left everyone speechless. He had been so arrogant just a moment ago, but now he was all smiles. "Oh? You don't recognize me? Open your dog eyes and take a look. I've only disappeared for 10 years. Could it be that the older generation of Broken Rock City has already forgotten me?" The figure coldly snorted. He took another step and stomped on Zhao Qingtian's chest, causing the latter to spit out another mouthful of blood. You are Lord Qiu. You're actually not dead?" Only now did Zhao Qingtian notice the figure's appearance. His face instantly revealed a look of disbelief. "Oh? Do you really want me to die?" The figure's eyes narrowed. He stepped on Zhao Qingtian's chest again and coldly said, "This lowly one doesn't mean that. Lord Qiu is the #1 expert in our Broken Rock City. How could this lowly one dare to say such a thing?" "Sir, this lowly one doesn't seem to have offended you. Why are you so angry today?" When Zhao Qingtian recognized the middle-aged man in front of him, the corners of his mouth instantly turned bitter. The middle-aged man in front of him was infamous in Broken Rock City. He was extremely powerful and did not have any scruples when doing things. He did not even place the City Lord Mansion in his eyes. However, this middle-aged man was extremely powerful. Even the City Lord Mansion was unable to do anything to him. Furthermore, it was said that this person had mysteriously disappeared 10 years ago. At that time, it had caused a huge commotion in Broken Rock City. Everyone had guessed that this person should be dead. Who would have thought that he would reappear in Broken Rock City today? Furthermore, he had attacked their Zhao family for no reason. This caused Zhao Qingtian to be both shocked and fearful. Zhuowen's eyes narrowed. He immediately recognized the middle-aged man who had suddenly appeared in front of him. Wasn't he Qiu, who he had helped to retrieve the Extreme Zero Frost? Junior Zhuowen greets Senior Qiu. Junior thought that Senior had already left Broken Rock City long ago. Who would have thought that we would meet again? Zhuowen hurriedly walked towards Qiu. His expression was extremely respectful. After all, Qiu's strength was at least at the Ultimate Emperor stage. His strength was unfathomable. Zhuowen did not want to slight him in the slightest. "Huh. I have some old friends in Broken Rock City, so I've been visiting them for a few days. I'll be leaving in a few days. The jade talisman on your body has the aura that this old man left behind." Just now, this old man sensed that something was amiss and immediately came over. Who would have thought that this clown would actually bully the weak? At this point, Qiu coldly snorted and casually kicked Zhao Qingtian. At this moment, Zhao Qingtian's gaze was lifeless. He looked at the smile on Qiu's face with some disbelief. He had never thought that Zhuowen would actually be related to this Qiu. If he had known earlier, he would not have made a move against this Zhuowen. After all, Zhao Yaoding deserved to die. Zhao Xuanwu, Zhao Wenxian, and the other members of the Zhao family were also stunned. The middle-aged man who had ruthlessly beaten up the Zhao family patriarch with a face full of viciousness was actually smiling warmly at Zhuowen. Everyone knew that this terrifyingly powerful middle-aged man was standing up for Zhuowen. This Zhuowen is indeed not simple. He actually has the support of such a powerful ultimate emperor stage expert. No wonder he wasn't afraid of the patriarch's threat at all. Zhao Xuanwu smiled bitterly. He stared at Zhuowen's back with a complicated gaze. Looking at the high-spirited and insufferably arrogant Qiu Qiu in front of him, Zhuowen also felt a trace of boiling blood in his heart. He also really wanted to be like Qiu Qiu, to do things his own way, to be free and unfettered, and to take revenge as he pleased. However, he also clearly understood that all of this required the backing of powerful strength. Lord Qiu, this lowly one did not know that this young man was related to you, so I have offended you. I won't dare to do it again. I hope that Lord Qiu can spare me this time. Zhao Qingtian knew Qiu Qiu's character very well. He was a person who dared to kill and do what he wanted. If he really offended him, he would even dare to kill someone from the city lord's mansion. I'll give you two choices. Kneel down and apologize to our young friend Zhuowen, or die. Qiu Qiu did not beat around the bush and spoke rather impatiently. This. Zhao Qingtian immediately hesitated. He was the Zhao family patriarch, a half-step ultimate emperor stage expert. He was a person of great status in Broken Rock City. If he had to kneel down and apologize to a brat who still smelled of his mother's milk, he could not afford to lose face. Moreover, there were many members of the Zhao family watching. You only have 3 seconds to consider. Once those 3 seconds are up, you can go die. 1, 2. Qiu Qiu's eyes were cold as traces of killing intent gradually rose. Plop. Before he could count to 3, Zhao Qingtian directly knelt down and suddenly kowtowed 3 times to Zhuowen. He gritted his teeth and said, "Young friend Zhuowen," Zhao Qingtian had eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai. "I was blind to have offended you. Now, I will apologize to you. I hope you can forgive this old man." Hiss. The courtyard immediately became completely silent. Every member of the Zhao clan stared dumbfoundedly at Zhao Qingtian, who was kneeling on the ground and kowtowing to Zhuowen. The dullness in their eyes gradually turned into shock and disbelief. Was this still their high and mighty old ancestor? At this moment, he was actually kneeling in front of a brat who still smelled of his mother's milk and apologizing, "Zhuowen, I'll leave this old man to you to deal with. If you don't like him, I can help you get rid of him once and for all." Qiu Qiu nodded and smiled as he stared at Zhuowen. No need. After all, he is the patriarch of the Zhao family. If I kill him, I'm afraid the Zhao family will fall into chaos. After all, I have a few friends in the Zhao family. I don't want them to feel uneasy. Zhuowen shook his head and said, "Not bad. You are loyal and loyal. I like your character." Qiu Qiu was stunned for a moment before he laughed out loud. "However, I just happen to be lacking a body refinement technique. After all, the Zhao family is one of the 4 great families in Broken Rock City. I'm afraid they have a good foundation." At this point, Zhuowen looked at Zhao Qingtian with deep meaning. "Oh? Body refinement technique?" This old man remembers that the Zhao family has a rather powerful body refinement technique called the Jade Stone Body Refinement Technique. It seems to be a secret technique passed down in the Zhao family. Qiu Qiu narrowed his eyes and chuckled. "Lord Qiu, that won't do. The Jade Stone Body Refinement Technique is a body refinement technique passed down in the Zhao family. It cannot be passed down to outsiders." Ah! Zhao Qingtian was just about to object when his chest was kicked. He couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. "Did this old man allow you to speak? If you continue to nag, I'll just kill you. When the time comes, I'll search the place where you are in seclusion and naturally find it. Tell me, is your life more important, or is the Jade Stone Body Refinement Technique more important?" Qiu Qiu snorted coldly. His gaze became incomparably cold, causing Zhao Qingtian to lower his head involuntarily. "All right. I agree to hand over the Jade Stone Body Refinement Technique. However, Lord Qiu also needs to abide by your promise." Zhao Qingtian lowered his head and said in humiliation. Chapter 269. The dowry left behind. Taking a deep breath, under Qiu Chao's stern gaze, Zhao Qingtian bitterly smiled and retrieved a jade scroll from his Qianquan bag. With a wave of his right hand, he tossed it to Zhuowen. This contains the jade stone body tempering technique. Keep it well, young friend Zhuowen. With a flip of his right hand, Zhuowen caught the jade scroll. Immediately, he unceremoniously used his mental energy to inspect the contents of the jade scroll. After confirming that it was indeed a body tempering technique, a smile finally appeared on Zhuowen's face. Furthermore, from the introduction of the jade stone body tempering technique, this body tempering technique was rather powerful. When one cultivated it to the highest level, one's body would be as hard as jade. It was said that one could withstand the might of a high-grade soul treasure. However, the requirements to cultivate this technique were rather stringent. It actually required a large amount of Emperor Yuan pills. Emperor Vitality pills were extremely precious and rare to cultivators below the Ultimate King realm. Even some Ultimate King realm cultivators would not have many Emperor Vitality pills on them. This was why Emperor Vitality pills were so valuable that they could not be bought on the market. However, Zhuowen was not worried. After all, he had obtained more than 100,000 Emperor Yuan pills in the ancient cave dwelling. Such a large amount of Emperor Yuan pills was enough to help Zhuowen cultivate the jade stone body tempering technique to a higher level. Sir Qiu, I have already handed over the jade stone body tempering technique. Can you let me go now? When Zhao Qingtian saw the smile on Zhuowen's face, he gently exhaled and cautiously said to Qiu Qiu. Scram! Next time, if I see you trying to harm little friend Zhuowen again, I'll uproot your entire Zhao clan. Qiu Qiu lifted his right leg and kicked Zhao Qingtian's chest, causing the latter to fly backwards. Then, he slipped out of the courtyard and disappeared from everyone's sight. Zhuowen only felt a little amused as he watched Zhao Qingtian slip away in a dejected manner. Soon after, he cupped his hands together towards Qiu Qiu beside him and said in a rather solemn manner, "Many thanks to Elder Qiu this time around. If not for Elder's intervention, I'm afraid that this little one would really be doomed." That might not be the case. Just now, when I saw that Zhao Qingtian was about to kill you, there wasn't a trace of despair on your face. Instead, you appeared exceptionally calm. I believe that you still have some trump cards in your hands. Qiu Qiu suddenly looked meaningfully at Zhuowen and said with a faint smile. Zhuowen's expression turned cold, but he smiled embarrassedly. Qiu Qiu's observation was quite meticulous. He was actually able to notice Zhuowen's expression at that critical moment. Brat! I heard from those old fellows in the Arcane Guild that you will be participating in the Arcane Ceremony in 5 days. Qiu Qiu glanced at the Arcanist badge on Zhuowen's chest and suddenly asked. Yes. I've heard that the rewards for the Arcana ceremony this time around are extremely generous. Therefore, I'm hoping to give it a try and see if I can get a good ranking. Zhuowen shrugged and said rather calmly. To be able to become a grade 2 Arcanist at such a young age means that your talent is not bad. However, I still have to tell you that the Arcana ceremony this time around is not simple. I've heard that the Arcane Guild branches in the top few super cities in Muqin County have all sent their own elites. It can be said that geniuses have gathered together. I'm afraid that it will be very difficult for you to get a good ranking in the Arcana ceremony this time around. Hearing Qiu Qiu's words, Zhuowen was slightly taken aback. Then, he smiled and said, "Originally, I came here to experience the Arcana ceremony. As for whether I can get a good ranking, that is not something that I can decide. After all, I'm still young." Good. You have some guts. I did not misjudge you. I'm really looking forward to your performance in the Arcana ceremony in 5 days. Alright, I'll take my leave first. I still have a few friends waiting for me. After speaking, Qiu Qiu directly disappeared in front of Zhuowen. Looking at the empty ground, Zhuowen helplessly shook his head. This senior Qiu Qiu really came and went like a ghost. However, Zhuowen also understood from Zhao Qingtian's words that Qiu Chao's identity was not simple. He was actually the #1 person in Broken Rock City. Didn't that mean that Qiu Chao's strength was even more terrifying than the president of the Arcana Guild, Master Kuya? Zhuowen, you. Zhao Xuanwu brought Zhao Wenxian to Zhuowen's side. His expression was a little hesitant, and he seemed to be hemming and hawing. What happened just now was too shocking. Their Zhao family's old ancestor Zhao Qingtian was actually beaten up by Qiu Chou, who suddenly appeared. After that, he even knelt down and apologized to this young man in front of him. All of this made Zhao Xuanwu dizzy, and he felt that it was unbelievable. Uncle, Miss Wenxian, since Zhao Yaoting's matter has been settled, I shall not stay any longer. Zhuowen nodded towards Zhao Xuanwu and Zhao Wenxian, intending to leave immediately. Although he had found out his aunt's whereabouts during this trip to the Zhao family, the result made Zhuowen rather angry. He did not expect that his aunt would actually be used as a cultivation vessel by Zhao Yaoting to cultivate a secret technique, and in the end, not even her bones were left behind. This feeling of helplessness and anger made Zhuowen not want to stay in the Zhao family any longer. Wait! Suddenly, Zhao Xuanwu called out from behind. What's the matter? Coldly staring at Zhao Xuanwu, who had called out to him, Zhuowen's tone was already tinged with a trace of iciness. Zhao Xuanwu's expression froze, but soon after, he bitterly smiled. He could also understand Zhuowen's current feelings. With a sigh, he retrieved a palm-sized box from his Qiankuan bag and said, "This is the only thing that Mei Jin left behind. I have kept it for many years. Since you are her nephew, I shall return it to its rightful owner." His hands trembled as he received the box. The viciousness in Zhuowen's eyes slowly receded, replaced by a trace of gentleness. Gently nodding his head, Zhuowen said, "Many thanks." After speaking, Zhuowen took the box and directly left the Zhao family. "Father, do you think that big brother Zhuowen will be alright?" His aunt's fate was truly... Zhao Wenxian involuntarily asked as she gazed at the somewhat lonely figure in the distance. For some reason, she felt an indescribable pain in her heart. "Don't worry. Little friend Zhuowen is a strong-willed individual, he will not do anything foolish." However, for Mei Jin to have such a talented nephew, she should be able to smile in the underworld. Zhao Xuanwu's gaze was rather complicated as he muttered to himself. "What? You plan to return to Rotten Armor City now?" "Kid, Broken Rock City is half a month's journey from Rotten Armor City to Broken Rock City. A round trip will take you a month's time, and there are only 5 days left until the Arcana ceremony. Don't tell me you don't plan to participate in the Arcana ceremony?" In the large loft, Grandmaster Tsangmu involuntarily shouted as he looked at the youth in front of him in disbelief. "Old man Tsangmu, don't worry. I will naturally participate in the Arcana ceremony. However, this dowry is the only thing left behind by my aunt. I don't want my aunt to suffer the pain of drifting. Only by bringing it back to the clan's ancestral hall will my aunt's soul be able to rest in peace." Standing in the hall, Zhuowen's face was filled with determination. After receiving the dowry from Zhao Xuanwu, memories flooded into Zhuowen's mind like a tidal wave. These memories were all about a cheerful, lively, and beautiful woman. At that time, he was still young. This woman had always been by his side, playing with him, making him laugh, comforting him, and taking care of him. Even though his father had gone missing and his cultivation had been unable to improve, this woman had always been protecting him. This beautiful woman was his aunt, Zhuowen. She was a woman who treated Zhuowen like her own son. She was also the existence that Zhuowen relied on the most at that time. "Kid, with your speed, even if you don't eat or drink and travel day and night, I'm afraid it's not very likely that you'll be able to return to Broken Rock City in 5 days. Can't you wait until the Arcana ceremony is over, then bring this dowry back to the Zhua family?" Grandmaster Tsangmu said in exasperation. He was very clear about Zhuowen's current mental energy level. He believed that with Zhuowen's current mental energy level, even if he couldn't become the champion of the Arcana ceremony, he had a very high chance of entering the top 3. He was waiting for Zhuowen to win glory for him at the Arcana ceremony. Who would have thought that such a troublesome matter would occur? Although my speed isn't good, an Ultimate Emperor Realm expert can. With that, Zhuowen took out a jade talisman and crushed it without hesitation. An invisible wave immediately spread out from the jade talisman. Kid! Are you kidding me? The number of Ultimate Emperor Realm experts in Broken Rock City can be counted on one hand. These Ultimate Emperor Realm experts are all very arrogant. Do you think you can convince them to send you back to Rot 10 Armor City and back? Grandmaster Tsangmu rolled his eyes at Zhuowen and snorted disdainfully. However, just as Grandmaster Tsangmu finished speaking, an enormous pressure suddenly enveloped the entire courtyard like a mountain. Even the surrounding air seemed to flow in reverse, as if countless streams of steam were rising. What a powerful pressure! This pressure? Could it be an Ultimate Emperor Realm expert? Grandmaster Tsangmu's face twitched when he felt the enormous pressure that suddenly descended. His face was filled with disbelief as he screamed loudly. Whoosh! A figure instantly tore through the air and landed on the ground not far from Zhuowen in the courtyard in a few flashes. Qiu Chou frowned slightly as he looked at the excessively calm courtyard in astonishment. He turned his head to look at Zhuowen and asked doubtfully, "Little friend Zhuowen, this old man just left not long ago and you already crushed the jade talisman? Also, from the looks of it, you didn't encounter any danger. Why did you crush the jade talisman?" Grandmaster Tsangmu's mouth was slightly agape as he stared at Qiu Chou in disbelief. He could feel the enormous pressure emanating from the middle-aged man before him. This pressure had already far surpassed that of an ordinary Ultimate Emperor Realm expert. He had once been fortunate enough to meet the city lord of Broken Rock City, Ouyang Yuntu. Ouyang Yuntu was a genuine Ultimate Emperor Realm expert with monstrous strength. However, Tsangmu could feel that Ouyang Yuntu's aura wasn't even a tenth of the man before him. In other words, the middle-aged man before him was at least a Ultimate Emperor Realm expert. You're tuning into the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.